the opioids is the problem for injuries, not THC. I've never seen one in 25 years. It's all like the rest of the hard hitting stuff. Oh, that and fentanyl. Or a little mess. Ready? Yeah. Brandon, gonna. All right, we are gonna bring this council special session to order. Today is Tuesday, February 18th at 3 p.m. promptly. And so we have a whole bunch of stuff, I suppose, on this agenda. The whole goal is to relook at our strategic work plans that we had from 22 to 24, and then also solicit any of the other ideas that you guys have as projects or stuff that was not identified when we did the retreat that we can put on this roadmap. Have a discussion about it instead of like during council meeting. What happens is generally the work session, you know, our agenda is full of all the things that we have to do, our deliverables. And then at the regular session, we're generally just voting. So this is the time for us to figure out what exactly we also would like to do and put on the docket so we can have, you know, something to work towards. And then maybe also a discussion on how we, you know, present this, how often we review it to see that we're on track. So that was kind of the whole goal of today's meeting. I see Council Dean making it in his grand entrance. You didn't miss much, just the fact that we're going through this so that we can revisit the strategic work plan for 2022. And we don't really have time during work sessions and regular sessions to talk about things that maybe are important to us as a council that we want to add to this list and be able to track it more efficiently, and how often we would like to revisit. And where we're at. And I don't know what some of these things are on here. I'm sure you guys probably all remember what everything was. So I was hoping John could kind of run us through this list if this is updated, where we're at with that, and then maybe we can all chat about what are some of the other items that we wanted to add to this or remove from this list. Is that fair enough, John?
Sure. I would start off by the strategic work plan is, you know, somewhat of a living document. As you know, the 5 areas, five goal areas. Above that, you'll see the city's mission. That's our why statement, and you know why we're doing this, to provide quality, effective, and efficient services to our community.
Not to agree, I'm just having a highlighter.
That's always an important place to start. To think of why are we here? What are we doing? How do we get there? And on the walls, we refer to it all the time. You know, that is your documents, our document. You've established that for staff to use, and it's decisions we make are based with that in mind. You know, 5 goal areas, and this has changed over time somewhat. Some things grouped together as far as the effective, efficient organization, community and civic engagement, being a safe and livable community. Economic development is clearly a goal, and just looking ahead to our long-term plans for the future. And you'll see both tangible projects and intangible, I call them, the things that we can build and touch and see, and other things about like workplace culture and things like that are a little more in between the lines. But the plan has not been updated. There are certainly things that have been, we can go through and mark off. What is that line by line? You'll see some things show up in multiple places, and other sections, or there's certainly things to add to.
Can you explain the rationale between the delineation between tactic and project for me? Like, why are they delineated like that? Yeah, the objectives, tactics, and projects on that.
Was a shift from the time before, I believe, with Rachel Berry assisting with that. Maintain an effective organization is the objective, the tactic being to review our goals and objectives, and prioritize city projects and the individual projects with that as first.
Okay, so our projects are action items based on our objective. Okay. I think it'd be helpful to go through this because we should clean this up if this is our roadmap. Also, I don't know how the council feels about adding a percent complete on these items like that. I guess I, again, come from a construction background for a percent completes or how I measure things, or we can't kind of see how we're tracking either. Is that a possibility?
A lot of these things aren't one and done kind of things, like.
Yeah, there's like things that just have constant care and nurturing. It's culture.
So those ones should be maybe under a maintenance item.
It's ongoing.
Yeah.
Percent complete is ongoing. Right.
Yeah, so it's a maintenance or ongoing item, but I think like having that delineated in here would probably be a bit helpful so that, you know, looking at this as a long list, that if we know that we have action items on here, then we have that we're going to do right now that are part of a maintenance plan, right? So let's just say if we're just talking hypothetically about employee reviews or, and part of that, like, you know, is surveys or things like that. I'm just using an example. We know we have to do that on an annual basis. That's a maintenance item, but we also have a trackable item on there that we have to go do. Right? So it wouldn't just be on. It'd be ongoing, but there would be individual action items associated with that.
Yeah, I think it's like police station, that would be a clear project. We're
Mhm.
moved through that as
Yeah.
percentages, but.
Yeah.
I think that'll become clear as we kind of go through.
Yeah.
These.
Okay.
So it seems a little wordy, it's sort of a lot of text there. It's like create and maintain a safe community. Well, isn't that a given? That you have to have that as a header. Page 2. The objective. Goal 3, a livable and safe community. I mean,
It's a goal area, just kind of concentration of public safety and livability.
I mean, that makes sense. Okay. I guess through these, and if we can clean any of these off or maybe review them and see if they're still applicable.
Well, sure, let's start at the beginning, kind of work through it. First objective is to create, maintain an effective organization. Tactics are to review city goals and objectives, to prioritize city projects. Update, create biennial strategic work plan. It's on that.
That's what we're looking at right now.
If we're gonna just go straight down, so we can all work up the same. That by the administration.
I guess that here's where I guess I'm struggling with this piece of it is in my mind, a roadmap is different and that's fine. I just am like struggling with the fact that we put this on here and there's going to be obviously like subsets of each one of these, but how are we tracking them on this form? Do you see what I'm saying? How are we ensuring these are done?
There's too much here.
yes,
There's just too much. We can't accomplish all this. There's no way. But we need, I think, in my opinion, we need to boil it down to a few key areas. What we want to do, like, as, when we were talking about the public safety thing, okay, or when we get the public, safety building completed, like, that should be an actionable goal, right? How we're gonna get there. That at least is measurable and obtainable, right, in the near future. Like, I don't know what, some of these things, I mean, they're great to have on there, but they're ongoing and they're just kind of catch-all phrases. Catch-all. So I mean, if I'm looking at it and what we want to do is narrow it down in each goal to like a few projects that we can look at, and then we can have a completion percentage, or we can have a, you know, see what I'm saying? That's what I would do.
estimated completion date and then a progress of where it is. And
Take
if
little
we're getting
bites.
close, then we're looking good. If we're sort of out of whack with that one column, then we know right away to sort of take a look at it
And then
and deal
project
with it.
done, move on to the next one. So there could be a subheading with some of the larger pieces that we want to get done, like I'll use the police station as an example. And then below that will be something after the police station is created to follow up with. Makes
Kathy,
sense, Brandon?
Can I send you something?
don't think we should abandon this
Yeah, I
as
think
its
this
own
is-
document.
this
Let's
is-
start a new one.
Yeah, and this is like to me, like an overarching, this is all of our goals and objective, but it's really hard to like measure the tasks. And some of the things that have come up were like, okay, for example, the 250th celebration, right, that we got for next year. It's said in passing, but there's nothing to like, that we're here, what are the action items? And we may not even need to know that, the staff is gonna know that, but what are the important highlights and where are we tracking for that? It seems like periods of time go by and we're not touching base with it, right? And we should be at least having our roadmap available at every council meeting to at least, there may be no changes. There might be nothing to report, but at least we have something to actually measure and know where we're at. That makes sense, John?
Yeah, and I think some of these whole areas are easier than others. You get into the where the action projects that we can check off. Starting with effective and efficient governance is kind of squishy.
How are we supposed to tell as council that we're doing what we're supposed to do by as elected officials on this is what I guess I'm getting at. Oh, so this is an example. This is just literally what I keep notes on. Thank you, Kathy. So this is an example right here that, and if you, can you make it smaller so we can see the whole thing? So action items, there's the task, owner, topic, category, priority, comments, action required, percent complete, owner, and then that to me, like if you scroll down, action items, maintenance items, completed items, this is how, and on hold items, these are like in my brain, how I track things so that I know like, you know, what are important. This is just a example. This isn't an actual anything, right? But like for me, like Hometown Heroes was important, right? So I put that on there and we actually did that. So we created the form, we're 100% complete, that's done. Now that can just, it's on the maintenance items, right? And that's part of a community aspect, not infrastructure. So does this make sense? This is kind of what I'm thinking we'd be doing for not this entire thing. Like we go through here, if there's stuff that needs to be on here, then it could be cross-pollinated over to here. But otherwise, does that make sense, John? Town halls, these are just like examples of things that have come up over a period of time. Council report cards, if we were to do something like that, right? And again, this is just an example of throwing things up so it could look like something. I don't even know what some of that other thing is.
I think just me personally, I like having a list of things that I need to get done. And I really like being able to go through that list, check it off, done, done, done. Or
I think we should do that as a council.
you think of a little kid, everyone likes to put a gold star when they've accomplished something. So it would be nice to be able to get some of these taken care of and then, like you say, move them down to the completed. But with my students, we're setting goals all the time. They call them SMART goals. So goals I don't remember what it all stands for, but the big one is it needs to be measurable. So how do you measure a goal? How do you know if you're making progress? So I think that's important. I like the priority too, because I tend to think of things in short-term goals and long-term goals. What do we want to accomplish in the next month? What do we want to accomplish in 2 years? So I like the priority aspect of it too.
So we could take a stab at this work plan, put it into that format.
I don't think it has to go in that. I don't mean to talk over you, John. I don't think it has to. I think this is important because this is like really the overarching, this is the 30,000 foot view of what council is trying to achieve, right? But essentially, this is also our report card. If there's things that are up here that we're already saying that we'd like to do or that we're committing to do or that we're working towards, like the 25th, 250th, or if there's a youth thing that comes up or whatever the case is, we want to review our governing rules. That's not something that's going to be identified on this. That is, we need to make sure that we're getting that done. The media policy, we need to make sure we're getting that done and we're tracking a percent complete. So like, 6 weeks doesn't go by or 2 months doesn't go by.
I like the idea of it too being a living document. So I don't know. So John, was this developed in 2022? Is that? So before any of us were around, And I don't know that I've seen this before, so I think,
It's in every budget. It's on there's a condensed version of the budget. It doesn't have all the projects listed in it.
I think to be useful, it has to be something that's gonna be in front of us all the time, otherwise you're gonna. If they come up with this and then 2 years later, look at it again and maybe you look at it regularly, but I haven't, so. I think For me. If something's in front of my face, I'm more likely to get it done.
Something that do need to go on here, though, like there's some things that if this is something that the council's still working towards and staff's still working towards, then it needs to go up here. I mean, obviously needs to be cleaned up and that should be part of our council rules too, is to review this and clean it up each annually or whatever the case is, or biannually.
If I don't, if you don't mind me sharing this, but do you remember when we had more staffing, like when Matt was helping?
I do not.
I was looking at John.
Oh, I'm like, no.
Yeah. We got Matt and Rachel both.
What had that, he would get everybody to send him updates of each of the goals and it would have a percentage that it was done. I just can't find it. I'm looking for it and I can't find it.
I think just from browsing through this earlier, I think there are quite a few things that could be checked off of here, just looking at.
I thought the same thing, but I wasn't sure.
There's a few that stood out to me. The sidewalk improvements, Columbia from Gable to Sykes. Elimination of overdue fines at the library. I believe they've done that now. So there are quite a few things here that were kind of check off things that were accomplished.
There are some like town halls and stuff that could go over there. The public forums that can go over there. And then we set goals to that. When do we wanna make it? It's just, it's really. And I'm not trying to be difficult at all. It's just that if we have an opportunity to make this work and I'm an action oriented individual where this seems like getting lost in the weeds looking at it and. There might be, I mean, I just feel like a roadmap or an action item is, I guess that's what I'm accustomed to, so. Again, we don't have to do anything like that, but.
I think the takeaway when you sit down and read through all this, it's like, wow, the city really does a lot. In a lot of different areas and those. Well, a lot happening.
And I think that that's what Councilman Sundin was saying was that this needs to stay, or it might have been Mark, this needs to stay. This is like this is great to see the 30,000-foot view of all the different things. And the beauty of a roadmap is that it's a constantly evolving living document. So things, you know, that maybe are a priority right now, something else comes in and that gets moved down in a priority level, but at least something is also holding us accountable for getting things done that are important. The council too.
I kind of see this as the start. And if there's things we pick out of here that we want to tackle right now, that we throw them onto something like this
Yeah.
and work through them. I don't know, I could see something like that being useful.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of this stuff is just assigned to city staff. Whatever department that would be. Like, there's nothing in here that really is, I mean, ongoing projects, right, John? Like, you know, just the reservoir steps.
Use policy setters, set policy and you adopt these plans and we. The administrative work of carrying them out.
So like, as an example, the 2 million gallon, gallon reservoir, that's in the works of replacing, correct?
It is.
So, I mean, I don't know how you would want to quantify that. Other than, I mean, you can put it on a spreadsheet. And I don't know where you get a percentage of, like, it's designed, right? And staff is doing it, the engineering is doing it, right?
The reservoir?
Yeah.
Reservoir or RFP for site selection services for a new reservoir. Not on that, not on Pittsburgh. We're not abandoning, council abandoned it.
That whole thing, right? So we're looking to cite it,
Focus our energy on new facilities.
and we have the money to build it.
Working on the money to build it, yes.
I mean, I don't know, I'm just using that, I'm just throwing that out there, because I don't know how that's gonna look, because it's not something that we're in charge of.
Yeah, so I don't-
Proving it.
I don't think that that is something, it's more of like the short-term stuff, like we want to track towards like the stuff that's not the overarching huge projects, right? Those still should have percent completes on them so that we know that we're like, 2% because we're just going out for an RFP or whatever. But this would be things like the excessive use fee, again, the 250th year, like those are gonna be things that we're gonna have to be constantly talking about. So staff is gonna ultimately do that. But they're not, where is any of that located anywhere on any of these documents? These are more short term.
Right, no, I get that. So I guess I would ask that you tell us what you want to do, and then we agree and support it.
I don't operate like that. I think it has to be a unanimous decision on what
Well,
we
that's why I
want.
said we'd agree and support it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that the staff does a good job of what they're doing, and I think they should just continue to do it. I'm not gonna direct anybody to do anything differently than they will already be doing, unless it came to our attention. You know what I mean? Like that something needs to change, so if the work's getting done, the work's getting done. I don't know how you're gonna measure that. Like, as if you use the reservoir as an example, we don't like, are we at 2%? We at 5%? We at 7%? We're probably somewhere in that beginning stages, right? So I'm just using that as example. That's not what
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Like you're saying something that we're trying to put on for the 250th, right? So what are we doing to get that taken care of?
And we're revisiting it.
Yeah, so that,
We have a short term goal that we're revisiting.
right, so use your example, like excessive use fees, what does that look like, and what are we trying to accomplish here as a council?
So as a council, we're trying to get a resolution or ordinance passed. So one, it's getting actually something in writing.
So it needs to be drafted,
It needs to be drafted.
or reviewed and approved.
Exactly, all of those things.
So,
But where are we tracking that? If that was a council goal, where are we tracking that? Anywhere in any document that we're reviewing on a regular basis to see that that's done?
well, I don't think we have been. I think,
That's
I don't even know that it was ever brought up, since I've been there. So
And that's
now this is a starting point.
Yeah, that's just an example, but that's the type of thing. So if it's something that comes up that's not one of the overarching big projects that we want to look at, it is not recorded and revisited for us anywhere.
Well,
It's
so
not on a
I'll use
constant
another
agenda.
example,
It's not in a
police
part of-
station,
Yeah,
where that's bounced around for the last 2 years since I've been here, and longer. I want to see where we're at. Like, at any given time, I would like to be able to open up a document, and see, okay, we're working on that site on Columbia and 18th or whatever it is. Where are we at on the agreement with the property owner? Where are we at with, all that stuff? So I know that where we're at. If somebody asked me, I can say, okay, we're in this part of like state phase, whatever it is, how we want to quantify it, how we want to name it. That's what I would like to see. And that's one of my priorities, is getting that police station completed efficiently as possible now, 2 years in. Or longer, 2 years for me.
Yeah.
I think everybody feels that way, but how do we measure, like, it would be nice to be able to say, okay, where are we at with this? And we asked John, okay, this was happening 3 months ago, or 2 months ago, or last week. What happened with that? That makes sense to you?
Huh?
So let's do that. What?
I'm just laughing because I had asked him on the city administrator report to give us an update, every city administrator report on where we're at with the police station. So it was just, I was laughing that that's kind of timely, because I was like, where are we at
I
with it?
mean, but in that case, if we had a document, we wouldn't have to. I mean, we could get a brief update, but at least we know what stage we're in.
So it's like, it's really like the, I guess the ones that are at the lower level ones that we need to have active hands on so we can be able to respond, or the things that we would like to get done, that we have a place to go back so that we're keeping that. There's, like I said, there's no, like every council, there's no agenda or document that has, our action items that we either want to be debriefed on, like the police station, or things that we would like to do that are coming up that we're touching base and we can handle it. So weeks don't go by. And
And it doesn't have to be every session. It can be like every month or every 2
whatever,
months.
whatever's decided.
Appropriate.
But at least we have something that we can go back and look, and the priorities can change on it. Russ, you've been really quiet.
Well, I think I've, expressed the wordiness, and it's sort of a document that, like Brandon said, you either don't ever look at it, or it's really like hard to read through. It's like, was that a goal? No, I mean, are we gonna reduce crime by 5%? Well, we'd like to, but we're increased 3,000 in the population, so is that attainable? So I think a lot of this stuff is givens. We want a nice city, obviously. So get rid of that stuff and have the bullet points that we can actually bring over to the column and say, we're started it. Here's our timeline. Have we met that timeline? Also, we can add to that because you can say, here's what we budgeted. Here's what our actuals are right now. We're looking good or not looking too good. So this has got to be made, you can look at it and go, yeah, that's great. We did that. Or, and like you said, concentrate on that one that doesn't look so good. So it keys me into this stuff. I'll look halfway through it and not even, okay. Don't think I can do anything about it because I haven't seen the target problems.
I guess that was what I was trying to say.
I kind of look at these two as kind of two different things. So like Counselor Gunderson was saying, a lot of these really we have nothing to do with. Whereas this could be the things that we do have to do with. Like the reservoir, for example, we're not going to be out there building the reservoir, but like you say, town halls, we can be focused on making sure we're holding a town hall or we're keeping the citizens informed on what's going on. So this, like a strategic work plan for the city and for the staff. And this is what are we doing as a council? Because we do very different things than what the staff does. We have the same interests, but there's things that they do that we don't do, and there's things that we do that they don't do. So what are we working on? What are we doing?
And I agree with that, but the other end of that, if the staff is working on the reservoir, where are we at? Like,
Yeah,
what-
we need to know the overall.
somebody comes and asks us a question, well, what's going on with that? We're like, Mr. Tromblitz, then why are we doing it this way? Well, then we have an answer, because I couldn't answer him right now if I had to.
Typically, we have a budget even for going out for an RFP. So we could show that budget for that RFP for design or siting, I guess. They won't be part of the engineering of it, right? That's just siting.
Well, there's geotech and
Yeah, whatever it
Things
would
that are
be,
about-
but that would be a target thing to meet, and we've done it, and then we move on to the next one, so it's been just brought to us that we're going in the direction. So if we wait for just Public Works to say something to us, I mean, we don't get that all the time. It just is I want to ask questions, Mohammed, and comes to us and everything's golden and beautiful, and obviously that's not the case in some things, so I'd like to ask some questions.
so the format that you have in front of you kind of blends tactic and project. And Kathy, the online version website, when you look at that, it does a good job of just making for project focused.
Can you pull that up, Kathy?
Put that up, it might be a whole lot easier to kind of digest this.
On the website under strategic work plan.
Do you see what we're kind of getting at, John?
It breaks it down.
Or easily, it seems easier to read than this. Wanted to just talk through these. I understand that there's ongoing smart projects. Just what shouldn't be on the list. Maybe a better focus. So that cool area one. Biennial strategic work plan, discussing the biennial budget process. We did that. We kind of went away from that. We moved to the urban renewal being a biennial, but doing it every 2-year cycle. And I think that was something that we want to walk back and not explore anymore, because I mean, it's good to look ahead, but we're always every budget looking 5 years out. And what this curve is, and having a 2-year project. It sounds good. Do the budget every year, but it really in practice isn't much different at all. Hands on doing an annual budget and forecasting, but we're still forecasting out. That's something we would propose to take off. Supporting managers, training, human resource training, I think that's. That means that. Staff support development, training, certification, building types of activities.
These are just focused like statements, like or sentences to me. They don't have any actions.
Once we get out of this, once we get out of this section, it gets a little,
Okay.
a little more project-y, so.
Yeah, I mean, these just look like great, like sentences, but what, and I start looking at the community and civic engagement even on page 2, and it's like, you know, I don't think we're doing a lot of these. Should we be doing them? If they're so important, they need to be on the list and we need to be tracking towards them. Like, we're gonna say as a council, we want to host town halls. Like, we can't do it alone. We need staff talks. So how are we tracking towards that? What is our goal? Are we gonna do it once a quarter? Are we doing once every 6 months? Like, otherwise it's just nomenclature on a paper that we're not doing anything with.
That's part of that SMART goal process too. I think the S, I think, is specific. So again. Host town hall events for community. So how often? Quarterly? And then let's set dates. What dates are we gonna hold?
Yeah, I
them?
agree with
What,
that.
what months are we gonna be shooting for? Otherwise,
Never happened.
And start, instead of trying to, right now, trying to get everything all, let's just start with something like the town halls. When are we gonna do it? What's it gonna look like and when are we gonna start?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's no harm to identify the things that we want on that list and then start working towards them. I don't think that we have to be narrowly singular doing just town halls, but that's exactly, I think the concept is throwing the stuff up there that we would like to be tracking towards and prioritize them. And then start working towards that, right? Because we could have 6 different items up there and one unanimous, like is a priority for us that we would like to get done. And we're starting to track towards that. Staff can't help us with everything.
Let's start with the town halls then.
And that's just one example. And everybody,
Start with that. We gotta start somewhere. Let's do that.
I'm just focused on like the, actually like the town halls is an example, but it's like actually getting a system in place. Like, what is this gonna look like? I get that, and I'm probably not articulated this very well. Town halls is an example, but what exactly do we want to see going forward so that we can easily track and identify the things that would like to get accomplished during the next 2. The rest of the stuff is already gonna be going and it's gonna come to us, the reservoirs and things like that. But how do we want to see this so we could track it? What things are gonna go on the list?
It's just like you've got as a project, council community engagement. Well, that, your
Put that under town hall.
town hall. Okay, so pretty much we've answered that with the project. And it doesn't need to be in there twice, I would think. This is all, a lot of this is redundant.
like I said, I haven't been very familiar with this document. Maybe that's on me, but are
No,
city-
I understand.
are the staff members looking at this or our department heads? Do they have this in front of them or do they know that these are goals that we're working towards? Are they looking at this regularly?
If you even scroll down a little bit, Kathy, there, the last 4 right there under effective city council, media trainings for councils and commissions, workshops, legal briefings, you've requested that recently. In the council governing policy and updating council rules, those are all kind of in play kinds of things. Maybe move to the second. If there's any comments on that, and I think it's good as is my point. It's,
Can hear you.
and you go to goal area 2.
This website does actually, it looks nice, by the way.
It's very, that's why I wanted to go kind of.
It's very,
focus,
it's a very nice website.
It's better than the tactics and projects. Media, video and media communication, that's.
Yeah, this is definitely a more cleaned up version of what the strategic work plan is.
Second one is your town halls there. The stakeholder conversations.
And the question is, all the objectives that are on all those, is it what we still would like to do? I mean, they're not being done, right? So if, like on the other one, right, so. And then percent completes on where we're at with them. They're spread out on different web pages. Is there something that's simplified for us that we can look at that are the top priorities, and then they can change, of course. So you shouldn't have to like go to all these different pages to look at where are we at right now with the things that to do. And Counselor Gunderson, when he was talking about like making sure that the high profile projects that we have, that we're being briefed regularly on the percent completes, where we're at with the budget, so that when we're asked with it, that we can all have that information. I think that would be helpful too. What are you gonna say, Kathy?
I was gonna say that when Matt Brown was here, he did do updates. He would get his department heads to give him updates on it, and he would update it with a percentage.
Okay.
And then post them on the website so that counselors could just go directly to the website if somebody asked, or they could send somebody to the website to say, oh, go and look, it'll be updated on the website.
Like council top 10 priorities or something like that, that we're working on that are outside of the major projects. Is that a possibility too, so that we can narrow down those things that we can make sure that we're tracking towards?
Yeah.
Is that a possibility? You get the whole premise, right, of what we're trying to get at?
I think that your spreadsheet it's takes everything and puts it all into one document. And I think that's helpful, rather than having to go here and then there and then, or have to ask a department head or something.
Not everything is equally important either.
No.
So there's things that are high priority, medium priority, and a kind of longer
Yeah.
look that's on the list, but you know, it'll come when it comes.
And
Yeah.
departments base their budget off of our goals.
I just think of Jacob with his, when he gives his reports for the planning commission, he kind of does a similar thing, that these are things we'd like to do, but we're probably not going to get to them for a few years, but they're still on the list, but he's got his high priority things that he's focused on. So it's good to have them on there, things to shoot for, but what are we working on right now?
Big participation, it talks about hosting town halls, and it has regular public forums, pretty much the same thing. Do that.
Yeah, we can't just have them up here too if we're not gonna do them. That's the other thing.
In my mind, you almost need underneath those bullet points, how, like what are we gonna do? So improve youth engagement, how? Is one of us gonna reach out to the high school civics teachers? How are we gonna do this?
And that's what I was getting at, is that like, how is us as council members is responsible for getting that?
So that's where my roadmap came in. That's how I'm tracking stuff. So like I was drafting an ordinance this morning at like my first go at like side by sides, right? As a proposal. And so I actually went and did a ton of research on different municipalities, 3 different ones that actually have that, what the fees look like, accidents look like, all that stuff. So that was something that I had on here that basically, you know, an action item for myself. I actually didn't put it in there because I was working on it this morning, but that would be like a 3 priority. And my action item, Jen, was to reach out, do all the research on that.
Why do we need an ordinance for side by sides?
I think you're getting lost in the weeds. This is like, that's just a topic of like, so that is an example of what I would reach out, just like when Councilman Sundin just said, like, we want youth, he's reach out to the high schools, whatever the case is, like that would be his action item that he's responsible for doing. He's going to reach out to St. Helens High School. He's going to reach out to Scappoose High School and see what they're doing. So that's, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, just assignments. So if the council can agree on it, that, yeah, we direct Councilor Hubbard to go work on this or go contact this person, or so
Just need to know what that is.
we're all in agreement with it, but it's there so it can be tracked.
So like John shouldn't have to be going to call, like for your example, right, Brandon? John shouldn't have to be going to call all the high schools. He's trying to run the city here, right? So he shouldn't have to be calling the high schools. That should be up to one of us to do that legwork. Which one of us is going to do it? So that's what I mean by like the 30,000 foot and then the boots on the ground. We're gonna help make these things happen so we don't have the staff have to do that and that we're doing the research and bringing it back.
I like having a way to track it.
Unless you just want all the work, John. Okay. I mean, the idea too is like the things that we want to do, like to lessen some of the burden on the staff as well, right? So if like we're talking about the 250th, like what does that look like? What, reaching out to the Oregon Mayors Association, what are other cities planning on doing? Like, and bringing that back to the council and those ideas back to, John and staff, like, these are the ideas. What do we want to do with this? What does this look like? But otherwise, you just have 250th anniversary up there and it's not also fair for the staff to try to figure out what that all means, right? It's our job is to give direction and to bring that. I know you led the copious amounts of email, so no, but doing the research up front so that we can have those action items. And it could be like, okay, so council report cards, if that was important to us, and these are just examples to put up on a roadmap, right? If that was important to us, that we wanted to know how our constituents are feeling based on how we're doing as a council, what does that look like, right? What kind of questions do we want to ask the citizens and putting together like a draft, obviously we wouldn't have the final project or the product, but doing the legwork on that. Just as like, for example, when for me, it was important to introduce hometown heroes. That wasn't something that I put on Kathy or staff to do. I did the draft for it. Like that was something that I put and then she just made it look really nice. So she didn't have to do that work. City charter update. I don't see that. I think I saw it somewhere in one of the documents. I'm not sure, but if that's something long-term, maybe that's on the strategic work plan long-term, because that has to go out for a voter, right? But what does that look like? Is that a citizen council that works on the charter? If so, like, should we be helping facilitate getting that moving forward so that we can get that done?
Doesn't the city charter or anything that's updated to that require a vote?
Yeah, that's what I just said. It has to go out for a vote, but it's the fact that if we want to do that, do we start putting a committee together so that, citizen committee, so that they can start reviewing the charter? Like, we don't have an action for
Sure.
that.
Sure.
That's something you want to see. It's a good one.
I just don't know what's wrong with the city charter now.
I say just,
Updated since 2012, so it's recommended by legal Oregon cities to actually update it every 5 years.
say the counselor session we went to this year, they talked about that and said, yeah, it should be looked at every 2, maximum of 5 years. We haven't done ours since 2012, so I think it would be good to take a look at it. And it might be completely fine. It might be fine the way it is, but
I don't have any problem with it. I just like, I don't, if we want to make changes or take suggestions, I'm fine with that. But what's that? I guess that's what you're getting at, is what does it look like?
that's my thing too, is what does that look like? So does it start with us identifying things and then, like you say, get a committee, or does a committee start with it, or?
I would start with a legal review to see if there's any deficiencies and conflicts with law, and then
Makes sense.
any kind of desired improvements that you want to see. And charter review committee, there's usually a committee involved with public. And, action and support, and council wants to put it on the ballot, you can do that.
So that would be like the city charter, that would be infrastructure, right? So that was like the third priority, whatever, but comments,
If it's in all the buckets.
the action required is we need to get a legal review first.
Mhm.
Right, and then, so that's what the plan, legal review, blah, 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 just like John said, and right now would be the completion date, we'd want that by the legal review done in 30 days, that'd be the completion date, the owner, that's John.
Sure.
And then the percent complete is 0.
I know that you brought this in because of stuff that you wanted to work on, and you being the mayor, why don't we all work on it? Something like this document so that we can all get on the same page. I guess that's what I was trying to say.
Okay, say that one more time, sorry, say it one more.
So I don't know, from my standpoint, what I would want to work on. So I'm okay with working on something that you're bringing up and that we can all work on, or we can all agree to work on. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I appreciate that. My first thing is a way to track it. That is like.
Right,
really
and I-
the crux.
And I think this is a good way to
So
start.
if that's the first thing that we want to do, then we can use something like this. Kathy can own this type of document and we can put something on here and this could just be our council document to track the items, if that's something we decided. Then the next thing is what actual stuff we want to put on here, because
Right.
this is just examples for today, like to
Sure.
put on here.
Sure.
Mayor's gonna all give us jobs, different departments or whatever.
We can agree to it.
Collectively, we decide what we're best suited to go and do research on.
We'll get a choice, okay?
Yeah, we always get choices. It's
It's not
our
a
council.
dictator yet.
That's not my style. So, no, I think it's whatever, like there's certain, things that I think we can all do.
I
that.
guess what I'm trying to say is we need a starting point and we need some direction. And I think this is a good way
Okay.
to start.
So.
I was just going to say that I would be happy to take this project on
Appreciate that.
within everything that I have to do. And what I was thinking is I would just start taking some of these projects, stick them into that. And then review, not into yours, but into that format.
I don't even think you need to do that. I think that we identify, like, go through this list and just really quickly identify the things that we would like up there. You shouldn't have to spend that time, Kathy, to just try to.
What I was thinking of is because this is a document, you want each department to go through it to make sure that what they have or what they need to be on here is on here, or what has already been
Oh.
completed can be taken off.
Yeah, can't they just look at this? Don't make more work for yourself. Can't they just look at this and already just review it? and-
Yeah, that's a good
Don't
idea.
make more work for yourself.
Well, and then they would be able to tell me what percentage and everything.
Does that make, I mean, then this document stays intact. We can go through this and the stuff that. We can still go through it and the stuff that doesn't need to be on here, but there's stuff we've already identified that we want to have on here, right? Which is, we can throw that up. This stuff could be deleted and modified and then. We can put up there the things like the town halls and the other things that we would like to get done, or the youth committee or whatever it is.
I think for me, the thought of taking everything off here and putting it on here, I don't think that would be helpful for me because it'd just be too much. I like having a small priority list of things to focus on. And again, I see these as two different things. I see this is what the staff is doing. And this is what we're tackling right now.
I agree with you.
And I don't want Kathy to have a bunch more stuff
We
to
don't want that, Kathy.
pile on her.
So council goals versus
Yeah,
city department.
I still think this, and I think we could all agree, this should be reviewed and cleaned up, like as far as the stuff. It looks great to have stuff on here, but we don't need to have it on here if it's done or not applicable or. And even if it was like completed, maybe a spot at the bottom on completed projects, so we could still like have them here to memorialize it and celebrate that they're done. And track it, but having it cleaned up and then. I personally think percent completes would be wonderful on here, and I think I heard Councilman Hubbard, Russ, I'm just gonna call you. That also budget if possible.
And it could be general, but it's just, where are we in it? And it gives you a feeling of percent complete versus dollars spent.
Is that possible, John?
Yeah, if the things that percentages.
Because
Makes sense.
you're keeping your thumb on it anyway, right? So that should be, does that make sense, Kathy? Okay, so this one's just housekeeping and cleaned up with percent complete and budget. And this is an overarching document. And then we identify the things that we specifically want to work on our action items here. But that was a really long way around to get to this point. And that's probably my fault too, because I didn't really articulate when we started talking about this on the agenda, what the whole, I guess, point was. Any input on this, John?
See projects that are done and ones that work.
You're just-
We can make a note.
It's so much there. Oh, no, it's not. You had another one underneath there.
Yeah, I
It was
have
like,
different versions of it.
okay, So then I suppose we could just make notes and we can put some things up here from this list that we'd like to see up there and delete the things. Is there anything up there? Do we want to keep council report cards? Is that anything that Jessica needs to also weigh in on this as well? But for now, is council report cards important to us for?
Part of my thought process is, and I don't know, I didn't see the survey that went out, John, but how much of that focuses on, I know it talks about government and how satisfied are you, but is there much on there that has to do with the council specifically? On those community surveys?
Like a
So is that something, when those surveys,
question about how the council's doing, yeah.
could we add something to that survey so that we're not having to create a whole new process? Just, we want to come up with a subsection or some questions?
Faces next to each name.
Exactly. How would like that? How are you feeling today? Yeah, I think we could, and that could be part of that.
We already sent a survey out, so instead of coming up with a whole new,
How often are we doing that? Sending a survey out every week.
Well, we did the survey with.
Yeah.
With. The update of this, we hadn't done it for 2
Yeah.
years, right? So it's every other year we've been doing. it.
Yeah.
It should be every week.
You just have that.
All right, once a month.
So
Once a month.
I just think it's important as a council that, you know, that we also know what our voters are thinking and our constituents, like, are we doing a good job? Are we being responsive? Are we responding to emails? No. Is it hard to, if we were to draft questions as a council that we felt like we would like answers from our constituents, would it be difficult to put an electronic survey together to, what kind of?
I've never done a survey, so I'm not sure. John might be for.
Crystal's done surveys as far as the naming of the street or,
Yeah,
Tie it into the town hall. It's all,
I'm kind of thinking that too. That'd be a good place to do something like that where.
Just hand out ballots or some kind.
well, they could email questions in the week before or something like that, and we can get a list of questions.
Sure.
Or have a moderator take the questions that
I
time
like
and
that too.
physically there. And then we've got a lot of stuff answered, which necessarily wouldn't happen in the
Oh, we know ahead of time what they're interested in.
Okay. So we can leave report cards up here, and maybe the thing is that it goes out with a regular survey. It's focused, a portion of it's focused on council, and then also that we do it at town halls. It's town hall.
Back to town halls. If
Town
we're gonna
halls.
be doing all this and we're gonna be starting the town halls, which I think is a great idea. I mean, that to me is something that should be on the list. How often are we gonna do it?
Yes,
Who's gonna, how is that gonna work? Are we gonna have the report cards in there? I mean, it all kind of ties
Yes.
in together. That to me is measurable and it's a
Yes.
short-term goal.
I love that.
months.
Because we're gonna need to make sure that it's done, put together, well orchestrated, because it could go off the rails pretty quickly, especially with some of the cast of characters we have in this.
Agreed, but I would like to, and it would be a learning experience for some of us too. If somebody does have concerns, so there's people that want to know about folks that want to know about the reservoir, they want to know about the police station, then we can do the research on it, find out and give them what, not only informing us on where we're at with it, but letting them know as well.
Yeah, and I think that that's some of the other things, like with the town hall, is like, there's obviously on the spot stuff, but if people want more detailed answers, having them be able to submit that ahead of time so that
Right.
people actually can do the research on that so that they can know what. There's some stuff that, I mean, I know that with the reservoir, some of the stuff I was asking in those emails, somebody can't just figure out 2050, right, for the fire protection. Like, that's just not something like that people are gonna be able to, they're gonna have to do
But
research.
that puts it directly back on us and that takes staff out of the way.
Yes.
So now we're being responsible and accountable.
Yes, I love that.
for an example, the Central Waterfront update they're gonna have on March 19th is topic focused update on the lagoon, right? The status of the lagoon work, and we're bringing in people have been doing the work and giving an update, the opportunity for people to learn about it.
Clear up misconceptions and
Yes.
misinformation.
Exactly.
There's a lot of that people are holding on to, in my opinion. They won't let it go and don't want to listen to what's actually happening.
I mean, that's been like a lately. I'm like, can we have like some certain things, like, for example, I brought up the fact, like, if there's an opportunity to dispel misinformation, I think we should. That was part of our strategic planning that we did also. But it's like, unless I heard incorrectly, even like, for example, during the meetings that we have, the public meetings, my understanding based on the classes that I went to was that you don't have to have detailed 100% accurate notes because it's recorded. But we also, we still have some citizens that believe that everything has to be 100% accurate, but we're not also coming out saying that this is actually what we're required to do. So then we also have staff that, are under fire sometimes about not having accurate notes, and we're not dispelling that information. So
Yeah, I think, yeah, the idea of the difference between minutes and a word-to-word transcription, and I've thought about that too, that we have people that come in and say, you cutting me off at 3 minutes, that's limiting my free speech. And it's said over and over and over again. So instead of that continuing to be repeated, it just say, actually, public comments not even required at these meetings. The fact that we do allow it and that we allow 3 minutes, and generally people aren't cut off, they're allowed to finish their thought, but just those things that we keep hearing when people come in and say, well, this is an illegal charge on the water bill. Well, actually, it's not, and here's why. That's such a problem, just misinformation being spread and spread. And
yeah, we have an opportunity to stop that though, because if we can provide the information that refutes that and provides clear the explanation of why. But we don't have it. Like, I would love to see maybe a spot, maybe that we can look at that as a council, like on the website, like a FAQ page of these things, and just direct them straight there. These are constantly the things that we come up with. But then also when the staff is under fire, and I mean, just like for another example, like, and I felt this way as a citizen until I actually learned and I realized that I was erroneous. And one of my thought processes was I got very frustrated when I sent emails to the entire council and got no response. But it wasn't until I was educated on public meeting laws, the fact that you can't do that because it creates a quorum, right? But people we don't know that, but what are we doing to explain to citizens that, so they feel like they're just being ignored by us? I mean, that's how I felt. So how do we communicate better with citizens so that we're not under fire, staff's not under fire for a lot of this stuff that's not truthful?
I think sometimes it's just a little thing. It's a communication thing. It's like,
Mhm.
the big problem I had is people come to city council and they sit here and they address you. And then they sit there and stare. And I thought, that's what jerks. And now I sit there and stare at people. So, but you just don't understand that.
You are a jerk.
Yeah, I've been told.
All of it.
It's just an understanding of the process. So I know when I started and went to League of Oregon Cities, and they,
Very-
the trainings, they discussed that this is what public comment is. It's not discussion. It's not a back and forth. It's their opportunity to tell you what they think, and you're there to listen. I know I mentioned to Kathy, I think it was the city of North Bend that had that little statement that this is what public comment is, and Kathy looked it up and she came up with that, and I thought that was, for me, that's very helpful, just to have that little blurb to let people know this is what public comment is. It's not a dialogue, it's not back and forth. So just little things like that little card, I think, and
Sometimes
You know.
even if we were to respond, it wouldn't do any good because they already have their mind set up and they aren't gonna believe anything we say.
There is some people that have sometimes a challenge in comprehension and understanding, and they get stuck in their mindset. But there's also people that are not that way, that can also listen into alternative reasoning, but they're not given that explanation. So then all we have to rely on is specific people that are spreading that information. So I think maybe that's just something we should look at. Is, I mean, I almost like thought
I
about,
think that's where the town hall can come in.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, take care of that.
Yes.
I think
It gives
we've
us a
all
chance to
seen.
have dialogue and correct things and say, no, actually, this is the way it is and this is why.
I think it would be helpful to get feedback from staff too on like the habitual issues that they're dealing with too, that we're not seeing from our side, for people that come down, that we can help, dispel some of that or provide clarification. And if there's opportunities for us to improve or staff to improve or something we need to fix, we gotta do that as well, right? So
Case in point was Jacob last council meeting, showing or that was was that the council of planning commission,
Planning Commission.
planning commission. Yeah, Jacob brought out when Toski brought the maps of two different places and
Oh,
was talking against it all. And Jacob felt he had to come back and clarify the misinformation and explained all that.
Two different sites.
So
yeah, and I think that that's helpful, but I think that do more of that. I think we also have the responsible not only to advocate for ourselves to clear up the misconception, but we need to advocate for that too, right? When that comes to that.
I think there's always gonna be things said here that aren't 100% correct, but the big ones for me are the ones that we hear over and over and over again that are continually spread. I think if we could come out with a simple explanation, a couple paragraphs and say, this was stated this week at our meeting, but here's the facts. I just think that would be very helpful.
So should I do on my mayor's report, like this segment of fake news, brought to you by, we're gonna just.
Might want to retitle or rebrand that. Yeah.
I like the idea of having somewhere on the website where like you can, like you say, we can direct people to and say, you can find the correct information on the website.
And what I'm speaking about isn't the majority.
Yeah.
It's not, so.
Yeah, but things run away they do run away pretty quickly. I can give an example that there was misinformation the last council meeting about my stipend being donated to my own nonprofit. That's absolutely 1000% not factual. It was completely erroneous and quite ignorant. And but that's me personally. I can go do that on my own, which I'm happy to. But there's stuff that comes up like that all the time during public comment that when we leave it as that, the problem is because we're not refuting it, it looks like that's fact. And it could be from this, it could be something to do with the budget, the finance, the waterfront.
We're doing-
Have you ever had people come in and do public comment that was not correct, John? Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
question.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, and that was meant to be like joking, but where there's no opportunity to say, hey, this is not actually how this is.
Sometimes it's an easy answer and you want to say it, but sometimes.
How can we, like, how, you've had to have thought about this, how can we effectively refute misinformation? Not real time, because you can't interject during public comment, but
It turns into an equity issue, really. You let somebody talk, you respond to somebody and you don't respond to the next person.
not
and-
responding. No responding during public comment, but at the end of it, is there an opportunity during council to be like, yeah, actually. This what's mentioned during public testimony, you don't have to say by who, but just to clarify things that this is not factually correct, this is actually,
And I often do. I'll make notes and then talk about it under my report.
Yeah, we get,
can you get more aggressive at that, please? Okay, let's just do it.
we get them to come speak, and so you take the notes, and I see you do that. But if we had a segment on the following council that says in response to so and so came up, then it'll be lengthy or anything. And then it was looked into, and that is not the case. And just because I always feel like I just like to ask that person one question, but not allowed to. And so, what's his
It's a good
name?
idea.
What's his name? You know, the reservoir guy.
Trombley's, Mr. Trombley.
Yeah. Good grief, that poor guy. It'd be nice to come back and, make a comment the next week, and then he might get something. He'll probably never be satisfied, but,
Too, at that counselor workshop, there are some cities, they're discussing different ways they do public comment. And I was surprised a lot of them do it at the end of their meeting. I don't know what the benefit of that would be. I like it at the beginning. People can come, and if they want to leave after that, they can. But a lot of them said they have, after public comment, they'll have a section and say, okay, this is a time for discussion. Do any of the counselors have any follow-up questions that you would like to ask those? And just give you an opportunity to ask more questions or get more information. And I thought something like that would be really helpful to give you a chance. You're not taking their 3 minutes, you're not taking their time. And maybe nobody has any questions, but if somebody does and wants more information, then you can have that back and forth, but
it's done that way. Then you're over with it pretty much.
I thought about that exact same thing. The only question I have, because I really like that, I like addressing things head on like that. I like just getting it out and let's just talk about it and get it done. My only question with that, when I thought about it, was how do we, what's the governance look like with that, right? So it would be up to a council to say, hey, I'd like a clarifying question for this person, if they're still in the audience, right? If they're still in the audience, and then, but when, how long did that conversation last? Because there's some people, if you did actually want to ask a question, like, how does that?
And again, are there gonna be people that say, well, why didn't you ask
You
me?
never asked me.
Follow-ups or, yeah, so it's an idea and I thought it could be helpful, but another counselor there, which this is a kind of a separate topic, but I kind of like the idea that part of their council rules, and again, I don't know, you'd have to see, check with legal and everything, but part of their council rules for public comment is you come in for public comment, you address the council. You do not come in and address individual counselors. And I kind of like that idea because I don't like sitting there and either being attacked personally or having Russ attacked, or when you come here, you're here to address the counselor. If you have a problem with a specific counselor, then talk to them personally and discuss that. But when you come here, you're to address the council.
Well, I'm trying to take the heat off everybody, so.
Well, I don't like sitting there and seeing somebody attack Russ, or I had it done to me and it wasn't pleasant.
Russ
It's,
is good at it though.
Russ is better at it than I am.
Walking
Well,
out.
I-
It takes so much.
I think though, when somebody comes in and I would like to know what questions they have. Like, what is it that will satisfy you that you are misinformed? What do you need?
Huh?
There's a couple instances but that's what I want, like, give them what they need. Like, here it is. And then they have nothing to talk about any longer, or they have more concern. I don't know. But if you take away what they're concerned about, then it's the problem.
Yeah, I
Sometimes I look at that, and I'm like, well, why don't we just tell them this? And maybe it's a legal issue, I don't know, but it just seems like that would. My thing is, take things away that people can't complain.
I actually was thinking of that questioning thing about the goose when that came up. I just had so many questions about that goose when there was that.
I mean, yeah, it
You
doesn't,
could have like solved some of the stuff if you could have asked more questions about that honking goose. I love the idea of being able to like ask about that. Also, you want people to come in and say whatever they want also, but one of the League of Oregon cities that I went to, I don't remember which one, it was in the Dalles, that I went to, Kathy, I can't remember which one that was, newly electeds. And, they were talking about for public meeting that the comments were based on agenda items or something of the sort, right? So it's focus on, for example, something to do with the reservoir, something to do with X, Y, and Z, and not that somebody didn't get invited to the Elks. Like, that doesn't mean crap for city
well, it's just
council.
a free for all.
Exactly.
We're pretty lax. A lot of them talked about you have to register prior to the meeting. You have to,
don't want-
all kinds of things. So I think, I don't know, to me, I think a couple months ago when it came up to get rid of them at work sessions, and we decided to keep it because we think public comment is important, but it would just be nice if it wasn't personal attacks because it's such a waste of time.
So what if maybe the thought of the dialogue on and having to do with agenda items? Or I don't know. I mean, I can kind of care less about the attacks, the fact, I mean, I think it's not productive and it makes, whatever the case is, it just is somebody's frustrated when they're saying stuff. But can we be more efficient? And if it was about the agenda items or some of the sort, could then we open it up to have that question come back for more dialogue? Like you were saying, so we're answering some of those questions and getting some of that information and making it go away at that time.
I do have a problem with the attacks. I do have a problem with the attacks on John and city staff, and whether we all agree or disagree on how we view everything, we're still a council. It's not one person making decisions. It's not one person that's being attacked. I look at it as we're all being attacked. And I don't feel like it's appropriate for me to say, stop. But it shouldn't be happening. And I think that if they're going to address people, I think we should nip that in the butt. I don't care who it is, if it's John, you, Russ, myself, or Brandon, or Jessica. It's not okay. It's not okay to be to be talked to the way that these people talk to us. I would never do that to a teacher, anybody outside of, if I'm at Skinny's, we're getting my tea filled. I don't do that. So I don't know why it's allowed here.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been on the other side of that. Like I've gone after John for sure. Like, and there's a lot of things that have like been frustrating. John and I've had many conversations about that. But I think a lot of it can also be nipped in the bud by the things that we can do as council to address misinformation.
I agree.
Other things that when things are left silent and there's no responses to anything, there's no responses to email, there's no responses to this. Then you're already mitigating a lot of the frustrations that lead to citizens becoming very irritated when it comes to the city function. Personalities, or if people just don't like you, that's completely different. But if we're actually trying to mitigate that and have like, we can respond back and dispel misinformation, when people are silent, then that becomes, people get really frustrated, citizens, when they take their time, come down, author emails, and it falls on deaf ears. That's very frustrating. And it looks like dereliction of duties. It looks like, and I don't think that we need to have a council that like does that. We can just address things head on, so there's no misinformation.
I think when people come and they see a face staring back at them that doesn't say anything, I don't know, like you say, it'd be nice if they could sit down with us and talk and see that we're normal people, we're humans, and that we can respond, we have ideas, and the thing I keep hearing from a particular group is that, well, that's what you signed up for. You signed up for us to say whatever we want to you. And it's like, that's not what I signed up for. I didn't sign up to get bullied. I signed up to make a positive impact in the community that I love. I didn't sign up to have people come in here and call names and bully and belittle, and it's not appreciated.
What were you gonna say? Cause you look
Oh,
like,
I was just gonna say that there, in certain circumstances, the information has been provided, the questions have been answered, but it's not enough.
yeah, no, I agree with that.
So, I mean, to
At
what end
some
do we go?
point, yeah, at some point, that is definitely going to be the case. What's your opinion, John?
Yeah, it's really as far as limiting the agenda topics to things that are on the agenda or not on the agenda, there's always going to be there's always an anomaly that comes in, and you have the scouts troop come in and they want to talk, or somebody on the agenda at the last minute couldn't get in there, but then they come to citizens comment or.
Ooh, that's a good point.
I just don't think we should limit it. I mean, if somebody has something to say, we should be able to hear it.
I think we'd be looking at freedom of speech type stuff. I was gonna suggest doing visitor comments for a work session only for what's on the agenda.
Huh?
And we can state that on the agenda that, visitor comments are only for these agenda items.
Cause there's so much in the work session that we're trying to get through.
Yeah, and then in the regulars, because they're gonna get answers when the topics start getting discussed. But in the regular session, have the visitor comments be for anything, free for all, for whatever people want to say. And then the next meeting, like Russ had suggested, is have a document in there where John and I, or whoever staff member it would need to be answered by, we would come up with a memo that answers all the different questions.
I like that idea.
It'll be posted on the website where people would have access to it.
Yeah,
So
and then all the questions, we would put them, we could put them on an FAQ page. So they would,
there are a lot of things that have come up that I would like to answer and I don't feel qualified to, and I don't think even if I got the information, it wouldn't come good, right?
the reason why I was saying that is because.
So,
Then we have time to do the research or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
yeah, so it's all accurate. Like, there's nothing.
I mean, how much more burden would that put on the staff to be able to do that? I mean, I think in the long run, it probably would be
Well,
beneficial.
Yeah, there's not that much that we get. There's not that many questions that we get, so I don't think it will be, and they're repetitive, so if we can just,
Copy and paste on the next one.
Yeah.
Same thing over and over, like an OODA loop.
And 2 weeks is doable to come up with something like that.
yeah.
They don't have to be lengthy. It's like this was said, and here's a little bit of facts. Make it quick.
And then maybe with some hyperlinks, so, I mean, not to get in the weeds, but if there's like to direct them back to somewhere they could find it on the website. So,
Like public meetings law or whatever.
exactly the case is, that maybe will help with some of the stuff. I just don't like to ignore people because then it festers and becomes more contentious than it needs to. We're not mitigating any of it.
And then 6 minute, I believe in just the evening only. But I think I was the only negative one. But if you got some people come up They take their 3 minutes and then they're same again in the next session, pretty much. So what's wasting our time?
And we do get a lot of that.
Do like I think public comment needs to be for work sessions too. I think that just because there's a lot of people who don't come out at regular sessions too. Piece of it, but I don't know. I like the idea of having a memo that we can give information back. Do you have any concerns with that?
No, I don't. I was thinking it's not the content as much as the lack of decorum sometimes as far as their behavior expectations and maybe some ground rules around attacking individual counselors and
Can you say that in your opening speech?
I can say a lot of things in my opening
I
speech.
know
I
you-
probably shouldn't
Well,
though.
but say
What I want
decorum,
to say.
civility, decorum.
Yeah, but what that means entirely different things to people, right? That's so ambiguous. Is there, have you in your experience, Kathy or John, found anything that wouldn't infringe on First Amendment rights? Because we don't want to do that, impact freedom of speech, but can more articulate the expectations on that and what's not going to be tolerated without infringing on that? You see what I mean?
Yeah, we do have a decorum policy. I think it's up.
It's just like hygiene. Some people
Yeah.
like have different versions of what they believe that is, right? So it's hard.
Shoot,
Huh?
just tell me.
We're talking about decorum during council, so I think we like the idea to bring up our discussion, a different way to do the memos with the hyperlinks and back to like, public meeting law and give resources for people. But also the decorum, piece, as John had mentioned, like, the behaviors toward people and the personal attacks. How does that not, like, how do you articulate that and enforce it that doesn't infringe on the First Amendment rights?
I've noticed a difference with Chief Hogue being present. Anybody else?
I personally like it that there is law enforcement here.
Have you guys noticed a difference at all? It's a little more civil.
civility is a good word,
Oh.
right?
Sorry, John.
It's not, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's just a presence. It doesn't need to be, he doesn't need to be in uniform, but I do think it's made a difference.
I do like that. Scappoose had LaBelle there at his meetings, go to Scappoose, and I personally feel like I'm more comfortable having law enforcement here.
It's actually in your council rules that the sergeant of arms is the police chief. so-
Really?
Or
Oh,
des-
wait,
or
I
des-
think
or
I
designated.
read that. So is there any way to have you seen any nomenclature to articulate that on?
On your opening.
Yeah, is that something we can ask Ashley that? Like, is there?
But it's just setting the tone at the beginning of the meeting.
I know that came up at the council workshop too, but, and I don't know, for some reason Gladstone's sticking in my mind. It seems like they might have something. I'd have to look, but
So that could go up on a roadmap and we can do research on what other legal.
it'd be nice to see what other cities,
Yes.
how they handle it.
Yeah.
They have something that works. So, again, we don't have to recreate something if somebody's already done it.
Correct, yeah. Okay.
Side by side sit there.
That's been a hot topic. So Casey Garrett's actually looking into that for the county as well.
So I saw
It's
that,
been like a hot
I saw it
topic.
come up online. Lots of people. are
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about it, So.
It's
I missed something. I missed the memo.
what's it memo? It's like, it's been a talk for a long time. There's other municipalities that have it. You can't drive it on the highways, but it's on the off street. They're not like ATVs as in like straddling like four wheelers, but actual side by sides. So it's kind of a thing.
I get it, but like when I was in Moab, that made sense. Here, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, anyway, it came up. That's why it's up there. And because I had never written an ordinance, I wanted to take a stab at it because I thought that was interesting too. And I like did research on other
It's
ones.
a whole new can of worms. for
It
this.
was, I was like diving into all the ORSs, but I generally go into rabbit holes a lot. So that was it. But at least it's hey, people wanted me to bring it up, so I'm gonna bring it up. So that's the way it is. Whatever happens with it, happens with it. And that's all we can do. Right? Okay. So we have that. I think we came up with a pretty good plan going forward with that one, right? What about, do we want to go through this then and pull out some of the, you want to look at this and take off anything we don't want off right now and then we can add anything on here that's not on here?
I don't see anything on there that I would.
Make one of these for every session, of every
Yeah.
heading.
What?
You make one of these for every heading.
No, I
This is
just,
just an example.
this was an example so I could demonstrate, but this was, we could do what, anything we want, like as far as its administration, community, infrastructure, whatever the case is, and then.
I like this. I mean, I think these are all things that we should be looking at, maybe the side by thing. But other than that,
have you rode in one? I will take you, I will drive you and I will take you for a ride.
I get that.
Oh.
I don't see the point. Why would somebody need to do that?
I personally wouldn't, but that's
I
not,
mean,
that's just
where are you
me.
gonna go? It's one thing to get from the gas station to the dunes.
I don't know, I missed the whole snowmageddon we had here, so I can't speak to any of that stuff. I can't answer the question.
Russ is giving me the dirty eye.
Do we want to run through this really quick and see if there's anything that we want to have Kathy put up there or ask her nicely to put up there? The governing policy, is that up there already? Oh, governing rules. Okay, so, no, oh, yeah, it is. That is.
I don't know, the bottom, the very bottom of page 1, is that kind of what we're talking about with public comment and how our meetings are conducted, but review and update council operating rules? I can- That fits in
Yeah.
that category. I see on page 2. Explore and strengthen video or media communications. I kind of see our FAQs as strengthening media communications.
All's already on there.
Mhm.
They've got,
I think we should put the safety center on there.
Police station?
they've got on here customer focused FAQ pamphlets, so maybe that kind of fits that too.
What was that?
It's
On
on
page
page
2?
2.
Is this the Bennett building? Is this the Bennett building?
Next door, the brick one.
Oh, the courthouse is, the courtroom is in?
Yeah.
What about the park improvements?
Campbell's kind of been on hold for a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, I was wondering, have we done anything with that?
Is that referring to like the drainage? Is that what that's talking about?
Yeah, we did. Work conversion and the work we did there a couple of years ago. Now, and some of it wasn't done.
It's supposed to be in that property kind of between Sherlock's and the ball courts for that, in the marshy area. They're supposed to be.
Tennis. It's resurgence of pickleball.
There's places in Texas called Chicken and Pickle. They're like, it's a chicken place.
Huh?
Yeah, with pickleball. It's strange. Chicken and pickle.
Texas.
So does anything else need to be added on there? Trail. See, this would be nice because we have the cost here, but we don't know what we've spent. We also don't know the percent complete on any of that stuff, so that'll be nice. To be able to go.
So the urban trail, correct, is the one that,
Here you go through champing.
the one that's running to Scappoose and all that,
No,
that's getting
so
started.
basically it would be a walking trail that would start here around the courthouse. I don't remember how many parks it winds through, but basically a walking trail through St.
Right.
Helens that goes through
And part of it's the water.
several city parks. Yeah, it would run along the waterfront and goes up through Nob Hill and Godfrey Park and down to Great Cliffs.
It's really a signage and wayfinding project.
Yeah, the path is there. You could walk it now if you wanted to, but it's creating the arrows on the sidewalk and just signage. And a lot of
We allow quads and stuff on.
The initial phases, they were kind of waiting till some of this construction wraps up before they
That
got
makes sense.
too far into that.
We have a lot of them here still.
So the library thing is kind of an interesting, didn't we eliminate the overdue fines in the library
Yeah, I think that was,
and then develop a sustainable operations of makerspace? Are you in the process of doing that?
They didn't-
Completed? Sustainable?
Block grant assistance, so the food bank is something that's complete.
where's that one at, John?
That's, three. Third one up on the bottom.
they're working with the brand.
Are there more improvements to the Bennett building or is that done?
Facade's done, yeah. That's done. Working out at the other end of the boat basin there in Great Cliffs Park is a joint project with the Marine Board and Fish and Wildlife to do that. We're gonna design it. We need to come up with a 25% match, but in water fishing, one side would be fishing dock or ADA accessible fishing here, and the other side would be a motorized kayak launch. Accessible also.
And Kathy, just to reiterate, underneath these goal areas, there's gonna be completed for each one of these sections, right? So they're just gonna be moved down so everybody can still see everything that's been completed. Right? Yes.
On the top of page 3. Sidewalk improvements, Columbia Boulevard from Gable to Sykes, that's finished, right? Is there anything more to do there?
I believe it's complete. Cool. Safe routes to school grant. These will have to verify with Public Works. Sorry, I believe the controls to wells 2 and 3 are complete.
So this will come back.
Head work screen, a lot of things here that. Rack replacement.
So it'll be nice to see that when it comes back and these ones are cleaned off. What's the, we have the objective, create access to arts and cultural activities in the community, there, no tactic on that one. What are we doing with this?
Arts Cultural Commission. Stopped meeting a while back. We still have it on the books, I believe. The Arts and Cultural Commission is still on the books, but just not meeting actively.
Okay,
No members.
still on hold. Okay.
It kind of brings in, I've thought about this a lot, but we still have a youth council on the books too. I would like to, maybe a long-term goal, but see that revived.
Can you put that one up on the roadmap too?
I think that's a good idea. It'd be interesting to see what the kids like.
Yeah,
They could format it like ours and then have people come in with suggestions.
how exciting would that be?
I see there's another, so I went to a workshop on youth councils. I think they said 17 cities in Oregon that have them right now. The ones that did the most speaking were Hillsborough. They have a very active group. They do a lot of great things, but just looking at what we had before, I think we could tweak it a little bit. I think we had from 6th grade to high school. I would like to see it just for high school. I don't know,
Members did they have in
a
Hillsborough?
lot.
Were they all high school? And
Yeah, in Hillsborough, it's all high school, which I think would be a lot easier to manage than. That seemed like that was part of the problem here is you've got little kids and big kids and. A few months ago, I met with Shauna and talked to her about it and she said she'd be willing to contribute and help out with that, so.
There's one thing that was mentioned here and I can't find it. It was urban recreation. I think it ties into what you were talking about, John, with the Great Cliffs Park. It just saw.
Bottom.
Hmm? That was part of it. There's another one in here though that, because the rivers, that's a big draw. That we need to use that to our advantage. Whatever that looks like. I mean, really, we have Bayport. Goose Bay, which is the county, but it's really highly used. And then we've got the St. Helens Marina, which is horrible. So anything we could do to improve that, which is not much because there's no parking and it's at low tide, it's very.
Oh, as far as the launch.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as like, I like that idea of fishing dock. Mediate the kayak launch, that's a great idea.
Yeah, they have a concept rendering and it's,
I know they've got like, I don't know what the term is, but like a hoyer. People that can't use their legs to get them in their kayaks and stuff. They were looking at that.
Yeah, it's got Goose Bay too.
Yeah.
So more and more used over time.
Mhm.
Yeah, we started this about what, 4 years ago?
So I know Jenny's got plans for it, because she came to the Parks Commission about probably a year ago, and she kind of showed what it would look like, and it was.
So is that something that we should put up on the roadmap that we wanna,
I just think the river is important here and
that roadmap,
it's kind of under.
that one?
that
What
would
did
go-
they?
Like the ADA fishing kayak, I don't know which one it is.
Slash sand island improvements, because how many cities have their own island?
Maybe to the library.
Nobody.
So I would put in the fishing docks, the Great Cliffs fishing. Sand Island,
That
I think
is,
it came from the library
oh,
board perhaps, but
okay,
that's the name of the park.
strategic plan.
okay.
It should be named after my.
So that might be complete.
grandparents. So the property was in the well, 700
Fishing and, oh, Sand Island.
Sand Island. And that ties into like sand castle and tourism. Bring that back.
Oh, it's ADA,
Facilities.
fishing and boating.
Because really, there's nowhere for kids to go fish right now, because Scott Goose Bay has limited that a little bit.
We did bring that back though.
Well, I know, but it's still not like it was.
They went down a dog here.
Yeah, there's that, but it'd be nice to have something for. You know. When my kids were younger, if they could go like to a park and not walking down the docks, I'd feel a little more. Yeah. They do it anyway. so.
What's the improved citywide emergency preparedness and resilience? What was the term you used? We had different terms for this. What was the one you used that I can't remember?
Continuity of operations. plan.
Okay.
Actually, one of the projects there.
FEMA.
I kept saying contingency plan. She uses a different term.
That's the FEMA, using the FEMA guidelines, right, for an operations center and all that.
You can, yeah.
So for cybersecurity, for everything else, that could go wrong, it's something that, like, I don't know, I think that's when we first met was something. And I provided a template for it. I don't know if it's gone anywhere, but that was an important thing. For me was to make sure we had. Not the continuity plan, the COOP. I'm gonna call it the COOP. I'll remember that, but the COOP plan is that they term it here, so that we have. It's really comprehensive, because if something, we have a catastrophe here. I don't know if we're prepared, and I should, as a council, make sure that. We are discussing it and that we have plans that we are.
And just so you guys all know, the continuity of operations plan is something that CIS risk management has told us we need to do. It's just unfortunate that we don't have staffing to do it, because we've never had a risk manager. Nobody's ever had risk management in their job description.
John?
John's been like.
I was gonna put it on you.
In mind.
That's the default. But what it does is it helps us with our, when a disaster does happen, they will have the continuity of operations plan actually will have a list of, okay, we need this type of equipment and this number of buildings, portable buildings and all that kind of stuff. And then CIS has a contract with a company called, I can't remember the name of it. But they have a contract with a company that if something ever happens, all we have to do is call that company and say, hey, we need this. And the quicker, the more information we have to give to them which they would have it on hand. They have some of it right now, but that way we would be like, because it's first come, first serve. So it would be, we would be upper in the higher level of getting that stuff sent to us. And it includes computers, portable toilets, everything we could possibly need to start back up again.
So that's something that maybe us as council, if we put it up here, that we can start doing research on other municipalities. I mean, I know I sent over a template, but we can actually, go through, and that's something that I can even take. Actually, literally have a degree in risk management. So I can start looking, and maybe that could help facilitate that if other municipalities have it.
Come in with my role as the liaison with Columbia Fire and Rescue and with the police.
So
You
we
know,
need to
that-
hire anybody on
Huh?
Well, I think you're talking about a contractor that would, you'd pay them to stand by, which is a price.
You just need to find out what they need.
Yeah, our job is to identify everything that we'd actually need so that we, if something did happen, we could promptly report to CIS so that they could facilitate.
And there's a lot more to it than
Yeah.
what I was saying, but yeah.
But we should have one as a city. So if we could put this up here, and oh, you already have it. So the stuff up here, like, I feel like what we're putting up here, what we can do the legwork on again to take it off the burden of staff. This gives us,
At least do a little
Would
bit
you
of the
rename
homework.
that contingency plan to Coop?
Put it in parentheses.
I'd say up there a little further, there's contingency plan. So is that the
it
same?
was the same thing, but I can't ever use the same, I forgot the term she was,
Emergency management plan?
yeah. I'll think of
The emergency management plans. A whole
It-
different
All right,
thing.
this is
Fine.
everything that they would need to have for it. And in that one, it also deals with, not only computers, but like for like payroll, cybersecurity, all of that stuff, right?
And I, like, in a dream world, I would love to have us hire one more FTE, a grant writer who also does risk management.
Really,
So half,
that's very lovely. Can you just put that up there next to HR? I had the grant writer up there. It's amazing how much money is out there in grants. It's so ridiculous, but it's not just the administrative function behind all the grants. There's so much work that has to get done. I wonder, like, do you have any experience with that, Gloria? Like,
do, but it's a huge amount of work on the reporting side,
Yeah.
the back side, once you've got the grant.
but if there's an FTE that manages that, do you think that it would be advantageous for us to be able to, obviously council would be apprised and decide like obviously the grants and stuff, but I mean, financially, it seems like we're leaving so much money out there. John can only do so much. Mohammed can only do so much. You know what I mean? Trying to get grants, Ginny Dimsto, but if we had somebody,
It can almost be self-supporting, yes, in that they could, find and get the grant awards where that could help pay for that position. And certainly if they are managing the backside of it as well.
that's the problem. is the
It is,
administrative.
yeah, it's a huge burden on
Yeah.
finance department currently.
So how many, just curious, and I know this is a work session, so we can ask anything, right? So how many active grants are we actually administratively managing from that back end?
I couldn't even tell you off the top of my
That many,
head.
huh?
Yes.
So,
So like you said, Jenny's working on a couple of the grants. She does a lot of the back end management of a couple of grants.
Shauna does them.
Shauna and, the police department has a couple that they've been working on. That is more of a burden on me on that side because they're not accountants. And don't really.
Got it.
Live in that world at all. So, yeah, that's just four big ones off the top of my head that I can think of, but I know that there's a bunch of little ones that we're working on as well. The planning department has one that they've been working on, so the list kind of goes.
So if, let's say hypothetically, if there was a FTE that was a risk management / grant writer, right? Like they wouldn't be subject matter experts in every single department, so they would literally have to work with the department to answer any of the questions, but they would still be able to facilitate all the administrative functions, because this is just managing the ones we have. We're not even going after any additional funds that are out there available. Because of the fact, I mean, at a high volume, because we don't have somebody full-time doing it.
Right, I know that Sharon's working on one currently, a big one. And we've got a couple of huge sewer grants that we've been working on, so, and she's working on writing one right now. So that would take us.
She says she loves writing grants.
Yeah.
I went on a walk with her. She's like, oh, I just love writing grants. I'm like, wow.
And that's great that we've got that talent.
What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna add, that was Rachel Berry leaving. Created a huge hole if she did both. She was doing legislative advocacy, work with state senators and federal folks and writing grants and managing grants and doing this kind of work here. It was
She could have told Senator Wyden that he should open up a half an hour for leaders to talk with him. I think it's ridiculous.
Huh. Maybe that's something to consider for like this year's budget cycle. I mean, it's gonna be a tough cycle, but
I can add it in and we can talk about it. We can discuss it at the.
return on investment with that position was very high.
yeah, I think that's what we need to
And
understand.
more than just financially, it's about networking and
Right.
just tying us all together and
Yeah, I think there's a huge ROI on that position. It just is hard to quantify it.
So when she left, what did we do with that FTE position? I don't. It's just not higher on it.
desire.
Are we filling the administrative position? Are we
The
gonna?
community development one.
Especially
Are
that.
we are filling that one. Well, it's a consideration, because if it can help, then it should obviously be discussed.
I just know too, the Parks and Trails Commission, there's been a lot of grants they wanted to go after, and again, it's not their forte, so there's, I think, a lot out there that they haven't.
Some of the grants aren't
Right.
that complicated. I mean, wouldn't want to write them, but when I've read some of the ones that
It's-
CCMH has done, they're not that.
It's also the back end piece of all the reporting piece that becomes like,
It depends on who you got to report to, but I think
yeah, I suppose so.
And the other piece about grants is that the city has been the grant sponsor for community development block grants, which senior center was a building that we got them money. The food bank was something that we took on. They by themselves, it only applies to cities and counties, and the county doesn't do much with block grants. It's brings a lot of value and resources to them.
Right. Counselor Hubbard, what's your opinion on that? You're over there with your glasses off, being all quiet. What's your opinion on a grant writer / risk manager to take on these projects?
Well, the person's gonna cost you some amount, and I think it has to be covered if it's possible to cover it in the grant amount. If you, I don't know how you include that, because if a grant is X amount of money, if that's say, well, management's gonna take so much, that sounds fine to me. But it's gonna be a burden, on their payroll. I think that'd be a problem, but if it gets covered in the grant itself. Also, excitement on grants with cities, my overview project is let's start focusing on businesses, individual companies coming in, and those don't take a grant. A grant is specific for one thing, and then the grant goes away. So it can be just beautiful, beautiful 6 months, a year, whatever, then disappears. So where did that grant take you? It just drops you off at some point in time. Unless you're gonna follow that grant process, there's another grant, because that's the only way you're gonna make that survive, unless it's a mission that got accomplished. But if I want to see something more focused on businesses being brought in, not brought, but be attractive to businesses to come in. And when you have that, every employee that they hire is more solid than if it's a one-time shot with a grant.
Do you think that that's a separate, I agree with you. We need to focus on our economic vitality, obviously with businesses as well. Do you think that's a separate swim lane than like the grant piece?
It is, but I just, all the focus on grant money and how
Yeah.
great it is, I think they.
Well, I think this is just for this topic, this
Yeah.
conversation specifically on this position.
Yes, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah, no, it's good, because I think you're right.
I think we need to support what we've got and we track what we don't. And so how does that work? I mean, how do people know about this? How do people that have an idea bring it to fruition without, you know, like, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are living around here that would love to do something. How do we support that?
If so if you can contract that out to specifics, I don't know if that's a possibility, but there's professionals out there. If you can just say, here's this grant, this grant, this grant, but if they have to be in-house to help accounting, that would be one thing that probably wouldn't work very well, I imagine. It really ties into your job. Once you get the money, follow that with costing and all
So-
that.
Can you talk more?
Dorothy had another good point too, is, you know, if grant writing and grant management is just a part-time job, then we hire part-time. And that costs a whole lot less. That would be supported definitely by the grants that we've taken in. And then as far as risk manager, again, that can be a part-time position as well. And without benefits, that's a whole lot less expensive to the city.
It's a start.
It's a start, right?
It's
Right.
better than what we've
It
got
can
now.
Establish, right?
It's a position I can understand what Jenny does and how she goes after those. And I've known some grant writers, but I don't know all the tools that they've used to do that. But I did get a grant on the project on Columbia Boulevard. And it's not completed yet financial wise. Just waiting. And so the grant that's, was given out. It's a little bit of an issue now. That's just between me and the company, and it's like,
I would see this person also, it wouldn't be like somebody that was beholden to one department, right? So somebody that's not like beholden to public works or the police department or like recreation, it would be like just broad brush, like every grant that makes sense to go after for all the departments, for parks and trails, for all of that. So it would be, across the board.
yeah, that'd be a part-time person that would also, but then again, it ties into the accounting and would that person pass it off to you once they get it?
So in my perfect world, that would be the person. So they would be, part of that grant management is reporting. So we do the accounting, in our part, but then that person would take from that accounting, what was grants, keep that accounting and report it out to the granting agencies and do that part of it.
So, but you're giving them the number, so they will
Right.
take it from there and then,
Right.
yeah, and that's totally doable because then they're following the project and
Right.
And that could be a Rachel.
What if we took a look at the high schools and some of the kids that would be an interest there where you could develop, I mean, this is kind of a stretch, but develop a class that's aimed at grant writing. I think, technical writing or whatever it is, and then approach it that way so that kids are having a part-time job opportunity and learning at the same time.
I don't know about the I love the idea of bringing a high school. I don't know about the administrative back end of that would be, I think, the concern, because if we faulted, what's the ramifications on,
Yeah.
on a grant?
So
Liability piece.
a more feasible probably along those lines would be like a college intern.
Well, I mean, that makes sense too.
There's firms, government affairs firms that kind of work.
Support that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, it's huge business.
If this worked well, though, this should take a little off your plate too, then.
Oh, yeah, absolutely it would.
I just think a lot of smaller scale projects too that otherwise would never happen. Just thinking of the marquee on the movie theater, or like Parks and Trails with like some new signs in the parks, historical kiosks, and just things they haven't been able to do because they haven't had the funds. So just, even if it's just little things that make an improvement.
To be clear, more likely than not, from what I heard, that the grants that we have are ones that would pay for the 0.5 FTE. And that just seems like a brainer to me.
Because, all departments, I think are working on grants or writing grants, basically, going after grants. And so, we wouldn't necessarily need much of a grant writer. We need more of a grants manager,
Facilitator.
yes.
Yeah, because you guys would still seek out the ones because you're gonna be in the know, you're the subject matter experts. Hey, this grant came across, this is what I would like you to do, and then administrate, like, on the back end of it. What's your feeling on this,
You
John?
have to X amount of dollars, right? There's never, you can never add to them. It's you get $500,000 and that's what they're gonna give you. Yes,
Most
say-
grants give you tell you a percentage that you can allocate to administration of the grant.
Above and beyond.
It's written into that grant.
So it's
part of that.
top dollar and you work it down from there for the actual.
You think a college intern would be able to do that on a part-time basis?
I don't know. I would have
Professional.
to explore that some more.
It has to be somebody reliable.
There's some training. There would be some of my time or my staff's time in training somebody. for that. And when we're talking about federal grants, there's security issues when you go in for reporting. So that part would have to be.
Almost seems like it'd have to be like a full-time or a part-time, like city FTE. What were you gonna say, John?
Oh, you're talking about the indirect cost allocation percentage, and that's how you capture that administrative expense in some of the federal grants, but generally grant funds don't pay for the most part. They don't pay for the person directly. It's more of an indirect benefit. Since the 3 grants there in the Riverwalk project from Travel Oregon National Parks and Land Conservation Water Fund. Those all were funds to the city. We didn't get any administrative component to that. But it's millions of dollars. It's $3 million. So you have to kind of weigh the indirect benefit to.
But to get that project to fruition, that money has to be gone to manage it, and then you only have X to work with, so is that grant gonna get us where we need to go, I guess? That has to be looked at right off the bat.
Yeah, there would be a cost benefit discussion for that, yeah.
Okay, well, that took a detour on grant writing. I think it's interesting, though.
Yeah, and it's also your relation, our relationship, your relationships with your state and federal delegates. They have access to money through Christmas tree bills and things like that. We want to have those big presents under the tree. Going to be working on it.
What about up there? Can we talk about an HR manager? Can we talk about that now? 'Cause- But I mean, well, or we could wait till when we talk about the governing rules that came up. That we started working at strategic planning session, because we took that off the agenda tomorrow. Right?
Oh, right.
So we can wait and talk about that. That was part of Aiken.
Yeah, that was.
Okay,
his
so we can just wait.
Wait.
We'll wait and talk about that one when we talk about the governing rules, I suppose. And it's already up there, the governing rules. What about, is there anything, Mark, that you have constituents have said, not the side by side, because I know you're excited about that, but something else that you wanted to see up there? Mopeds? Yeah. No, is there anything that is striking that is important to you? That we don't have up there?
Not really. I guess I'm more focused on some of the other things that are, like, I'll just, like, getting the mill all signed off on and doing that, getting the police stations, some of the things that I think have needed to happen that I just don't know where we're at. So if we look at Project Arcadia, I know they're coming in, I just kind of, when is that gonna be operational and finalized?
So can we make a list? You're like, I think that that's a really good point, Mark. So can we make a list of the things that are outstanding that we would like to have?
That's what I wanna see. I wanna see it finished. I want to,
Consider it updates.
Yeah, can we get an update?
I just wanna know, like, we have current projects that are in the works, where we at, and when can we expect something concrete? And that's where I'm at. I mean, it's great to have all these other action items to look at
Yeah.
and monitor, but I still, I wanna get what we've gotten started completed, like the riverfront project, the police station, the mill. And then some of the other things are like, you know, if we're talking about earlier about bringing in new businesses and supporting the ones that are here, there was that study by, I think it was the economic team, a huge amount of open storefronts that are just sitting there, which also goes along with the, I guess, blight, for lack of a better term, but of great locations that aren't being used for other than storage. And how does that happen? Because I'll take, as an example, Fat Boys Pizza, which is no longer Fat Boys Pizza, and hasn't been for 25, 30 years. That's, to me, a great location. Why don't we get somebody, and I know there's a lot of logistical things that have to happen with that, but I would like to see something like that, if it's not, you know, to opened up and being used in a productive way. Like if it's a restaurant or if it's whatever.
You're talking about like what Astoria does. Like Astoria, right? They have something, an ordinance down there that basically it has to be, what is it? It has to be storefront, it has to be used.
Yeah, it's a,
What is that?
if,
This ties in with the planning commission and what they want to accomplish as well.
They have to pay a fee.
yeah, there's
get fined?
penalties involved, yeah.
So maybe we can explore what that is. I go back and forth on that because I'm like, oh, it's their property, don't want to tell them, but they're also in this historic, district down here that is all this copious amounts of money is going in to develop this.
Well, it does open up when you got that sitting there with that, when it's not being used. And I'm with you on that one. I mean, yeah, you're right. But at a certain point, wouldn't it make more sense if it was being generating revenue?
You go ask the person who owns that building. Say, well, new engineering, architecture, and then the building inspector comes through and they say, done, I'm not gonna do it. That happens, I would say 90% of the building.
Well, but it's at a certain,
Well, once you get someone involved, say, oh, I mean, there's plenty of excited people out there to open small businesses. It's their dream. Well, some have done some studying, some haven't, but I've seen too many times on their way, all the way down from 30. I've seen them hire the architect engineer, get to the point of getting some costs. And then sometimes it stops right there because they went in for a permit or they got into the permit and then the inspection process just got so nasty, not that they're supposed to be nasty, but it's the construction laws and everything. That's hard for me to say, well, we can make that all go away, because that's not gonna go away. That's part of inflation, is all these regulations, so. I think the only way they can be an incentive to do anything with their property is SDCs reduced or some incentive tax wise or something like that. That looks like, well, here's, it's gonna be less overhead to operate this business and have a renter in there. There again, you can only give so many grants out, but it's just hard to do.
I understand that too, but I guess, I mean, if the buildings aren't being used and that's the rationale for it, then 20 years from now, it's just gonna be a bulldozed building.
We're gonna penalize them, so they've got one more roadblock in front of them.
No, I'm trying to incentivize it. I want to see it.
With what?
I don't know. That's something, what does that look like?
That's a tough one,
Yeah.
because it's the economy. Whoever they bring as a renter or do it themselves, they need to make money at that
Sure,
business.
sure, but is there a way to make that happen?
So I'm seeing it. I just speak from what I'm seeing
Do we
and
know-
doing.
Do we know, like, a lot of those buildings, like Fat Boys Pizza, why it's desolate there, why they're not doing?
Used for personal storage.
So it's not, it may not be something in that case. I don't know what the story is with the businesses there, right? So
I'm just, I'm just
I've been in there and
kind of spitballing.
I know the owner, yeah. Elderly man, he's had his stuff in there forever.
Yeah, a lot of it is not costing him anything right now except property taxes. So he's got a lot of stuff and so he's got it. He's no motivation there. Now, what would be his motivation? First of all, he doesn't want to get rid of his stuff because he's old. He wants to keep it, so, I mean, each case will be different, but, there again, it's a tough, to get that going.
So I put up
beautiful
there
building.
incentives for economic development. Does that sound like that covers all that?
she's all working in the background here. We didn't even see her all stealthy back there. Yeah, and maybe maybe it's even just worth exploring what other municipalities do that have, a highly,
Story, I think, is a good example.
yeah, that is probably one of the better ones, but maybe we at least look at that and then look at some of the incentives. I think you have to have some.
And this would help the planning commission too with some guidance on what they want to do.
Well, they want to see restoration and all that, and that's all.
But you make a valid point, I mean, how, like, who's gonna fund that?
Take the Klondike. I mean, he's gone after a lot of, grants and he's gotten them. But it's still not a big enough nut to make it all happen. I mean, it's great that you get someone to step in and do that, but, once you put all the costs together, it's just prohibitive. I mean, it's a day we live in because we're so restricted by all sorts of codes and things. We can't, maybe we hook them up with a grant writer, more of
That's what I
that.
thought, yeah.
Or for a specific job, say, we would like to see you do your
Yeah.
Fat Boy Pizza, so could we offer you some help with a grant writing?
I love that idea. Does that put us in a discriminatory way if we, don't offer that to every other business? Or is it that it could be a delineation within the waterfront area, the historic area? That we offer assistance in
Main
grant
Street's
writing?
doing that. They're doing.
See, I know that's happened down here in the historic district, that there's a certain grant that every year, or every 6 months, whenever it comes out. All of these,
Waterville, right?
all of these property owners are notified. You're eligible. If you'd like to apply, here's the
But with
information.
Fat Boys Pizza, what would they're not a business, like, I don't think they're an LLC or anything anymore, so there would be no opportunity, right, for a grant, but.
I'm
maybe
just
there's-
bringing that up as an example.
no, I
I'm not trying to.
Yeah, but that's a great example, because that's one that always comes up, but if there was an opportunity, if we did have somebody that could go after grants, which you're quite over here.
Downtown Main Street, our investment in Main Street has kept them going enough to produce these several hundred, $400,000 in grants, so it seems like a pretty good return. City manages the CLG, which is Certified Local Government Grant. Those are almost every year that go out as matching grants to do some of the buildings. A lot of the buildings downtown have had some benefit because of those.
That's pass through the state, right?
Yeah, it's pass through. Doesn't go through our accounts, it goes straight through theirs.
It's not the city.
But we're still facilitating those funds just because
Makes sense, though, doesn't
it
it?
makes sense. It gets some of our buildings fixed up. It's, it's not local money.
Maybe it's just a start, but I mean, gotta start somewhere.
I think it's a good conversation, because if like somebody had a property that there's an opportunity to be able to fix it up and get assistance with it, they're more likely to do that than just when they're content with it themselves, and then they have no reason to do it, right, at all.
They're not motivated by anything, and if you keep your ear to the ground and listen for those grants that are coming down the line or something like that, they can do that, but there's real no other motivation unless they get someone to, come in that sees a vision here. We haven't had a lot of that.
Well, that sounds like that's an action item. What is our vision?
Well, we're putting millions of dollars down here at the waterfront, so someone's got a vision. Whether he put any buildings down there for a while, I don't know. Here again, it's economy. Get a developer in here and he's not gonna just come down here because we got a beautiful waterfront. He's gonna make sure that whatever he builds there, the rest of the city can handle it. Be Mr. Negatory here.
I will not go to Costco.
Get the Winco.
Just, hey, just go back. We have the police station, Arcadia, waterfront. What was the other projects that we want to pay from? John and Stefan.
I know.
We're starting the study for the reservoir, so we didn't need to do that.
What was, I was
What were-
busy talking to Russ.
Just to circle back really quick, we had the project updates, the ones that we wanted to get an update from John, we had the police department, we have Arcadia, waterfront. Do we want to update on Lagoon?
Yeah, bring them all. Those are the topics that should be addressed all the time, because if they don't have movement, for some reason, we need to know why they don't have movement.
What are the ones that we're not doing? That we didn't list?
Winco. So what started it?
Only if it has another Dairy Queen inside, that they think.
No.
What other project?
Are we near you?
Yeah, I do have a list. It's not with me that.
They don't-
Yeah,
Millard Road be one of those.
yeah, it's the sale of properties. It's yeah, the large.
I think in general, going through our properties and what we have for sale, what we're doing with them, and what the statuses of them would be helpful for. I mean, some of us haven't been here, so.
Yeah, there was a. We looked at all of the available properties that might be marketable and we sold 4 of them. The building lot here to years ago that we've. The properties in 9th and 10th Street up there, the bluff. Not 10th, 11th. We made them more valuable by vacating the rights of way in between that, so it's a 5 acre.
Zoned, right?
Yeah, 5 acre block and. That's on the market for new. Large, the other one that's kind of. Getting a status update from the contractor.
It's in the works.
Works, yeah.
We just don't know it.
Mill property, we're seeing interest in the mill. Anybody who wants to talk, developer that wants to come talk about the waterfront or out at the industrial park, we and drop what I'm doing and go show it to them, because that's, I agree that that's where the real money is at. Get the
There's a
business.
meeting coming up on that.
Yeah.
Soon. The 6th. But maybe, John, what I think would be helpful for all of us, I believe I'm hearing here, is that also, like, we will review our roadmap for like the things that we have action, but if we can get updates from you on like key items, like the project updates, where we're at, or, I think that would be helpful for everybody. So we're all on the same page all the time.
Yeah, in my report, I generally give an update of.
Sure.
Most of these things. Under economic development here, there's almost everything on this list is. Substantially. Or substantially. Stands out is Main Street, which is kind of an ongoing. Meaning the Urban Renewal Agency, which we have yet to have a meeting yet on that, but we will.
Seems like we just had one.
That was a really good presentation for the urban.
Didn't we have one?
It was like, it was like a year ago, I think now, but it was really good. I went back and watched it.
Sometimes I have to
It was good.
hallucinate. I'm in for us.
So, what else we got in the property updates? Should give them a list besides if there's any other key ones that we want updated.
I think some of this too is just, I want to hear it, even if there's no update, because I think things are in the works and, but I I guess I expect sometimes that things are moving quicker than they actually are, and there's really nothing to say. It's in the works, right? I mean, how do we? Does that make sense?
It does. And I think that you're like spot on. I agree with you wholeheartedly because not only is it like it's in the works, but we should also know, is there any hiccups? Have we had any hiccups that have, because they surface, right?
Sure.
People start talking, so we're gonna have hiccups. Things are not gonna always go, but at least it's moving forward. This is the percent complete we have on this phase or this phase of the scope of work we're doing, and these are the current issues that we're running into that we're mitigating. I mean, the other thing is to be able to, if we know, then we're educated, we have the knowledge, and then we also can help mitigate some of the issues that citizens are feeling versus they get very frustrated and then don't really have answers necessarily.
Pizza here.
Is there anything else that, I mean, it's 5:10, we've talked about like a whole bunch of random different stuff today. I think it's productive though, so I appreciate everybody coming in. What?
This is a separate topic, but. Yeah,
I love it.
at that Friday planning meeting, the issue of staff morale came up a lot.
No,
So are there things that we could be doing? I don't know. One thing that I keep thinking is I would love Kathy and Lisa, however we could, whether we pitch in and help or whatever it might be, to bring back the employee banquet, or I don't know what it was called, but that was the title, but just little things like that to let the staff know that they're appreciated. And
I think that's a good idea too. I mean. I don't know how to prove, I don't know if employee morale is that bad. Or if that's just my takeaway from it, but you know, after we had that meeting. Okay, well, what do we need to do? I was left with that. Why is it there? Why is it that way? And what do we need to do? Because
You think that this goes back to, I thought about this as well after we left, and I was like, wow, I wasn't surprised about
that's
some.
frustrating.
But I thought, when I reflected on that, I was like, okay, well, part of the governing rules when we are doing interviews or the evaluations on, the department leads, right? They're gonna come to council this time. It's what the first draft of the governing rules were. But I still think that the anonymous survey, like a truly anonymous survey, to subordinates within that department is really how you can determine morale and systemic issues within a department. And I think we probably have some real experiences recently that maybe if we had employee anonymous surveys, that we would potentially know that there are issues going on that don't get exposed.
I'm not against the idea of an anonymous survey. Where does that go though? Who sees?
We would see it well, I would assume, and we're gonna go over this and I'm sure the governing policy, but the department heads would see it as part of their evaluation as well as us. I mean, if it's anonymous, you don't know who the employee is, but if you have like one or two people are always gonna be, have issues. But if you see a systemic issue across an entire department, that's a huge red flag.
Yeah, but if you are asking the employees to make negative comments about the supervisor, even if they're justified, and you're handing it to the supervisor, that's not gonna go.
No, I'm not saying hand it to the supervisor. It would be part of their evaluation with council, like we could have that and
I thought
discuss
it was
that.
going through.
No, it would be like, this would be, it would be part of their evaluation. I mean, it's pretty effective other places. That's how you know when you have like usually something going wrong in a department, because you can't have generally a whole department that like be disgruntled. It's usually one or two.
Sure, I think that's fair, but
It would be a helpful tool.
I don't know.
I don't think that that solves necessarily, I mean, I don't know if that necessarily solves morale issues, but I don't care who you are. You always have opportunities for improvement, whether you're, subordinate or if you're a leader, you have opportunities. If you're a department head or a manager, you have opportunities to improve, right? So if you have a systemic issue, that's a morale issue also.
There may be people that never use it, but there may be people, if they have something they feel strongly enough about, that they're afraid to talk to somebody, that it's an easy way for them to voice their concerns.
I think it's a tool in the toolkit. But it also, like, people getting kudos and appreciation, that also helps with morale. People need to feel valued. I was really surprised at that overwhelming response at the strategic planning session too.
In our most recent management meeting, we had a pretty long discussion about culture and creating that environment where employees feel safe and if there's an issue, they should raise it, and if they should be comfortable to elevate it to any supervisor, their supervisor, if that, or the supervisor's issue to go above their supervisor. And I thought a long ways to try to figure out the culture piece and make it better. And it feels better.
Generally, employees are not gonna go like to their supervisor, or if they're part of like a rank and file, they're not gonna leapfrog their supervisor and go to another. That's generally not what's going to happen.
I do.
You might, but I
We gotta
mean,
get something done.
that's true, but not a lot of, especially, people's jobs matter to them, and seniors doesn't, but that's usually a factor
doesn't.
in it. And, I don't know, it's a topic for.
It depends on the department. Say that, I think.
Department heads are important to lead that charge. And also, I think you'll find many departments in the city now, they're relieved after the election. I think that can be.
I don't know about that. I think that was part of like the big morale issue, if we're being honest. Like, it's me coming in, and because I'm just really like assertive, I generally appreciate the fact that I made a lot of people nervous. I think people were very afraid that, one, they didn't know me or my style or like how I really operate. They get 3 minutes of public testimony, and I've spent my whole life on workers' rights, and I do care. So, that is a trust issue that comes over a period of time on being here for the right reasons, right? But sometimes it's hard when you're direct, and I just have that kind of personality type. So I think I was a major factor in a lot of the strategic work session, where I think there was also some of that morale issue, because we had department heads here. And I think that there was probably some of that a lot of that was on me. Like, I own that piece of it. So that's up to me personally to develop those relationships with staff so that they know I value them. And if I have an issue with them, that we can communicate effectively, on just knowing where we stand with that. So I think that was a lot of the morale issue, if I'm being honest with that. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I hypothesize it is.
Culture, all of it.
A lot of unknowns.
I have a lot of unknowns, certain uncertainty, change. We had, Rick was here for 8 years, and, there's,
I'm kidding, by the way.
oh no, it's fine, it's fine. But that is a change in the guard. It's very nerve wracking. You don't know what's gonna happen. But again, that's time and communication and changing perceptions.
Sorry, John.
I was just gonna underscore the importance of the tone at the top. We're all looking up to see how your relationship works or doesn't, and that ripples through the whole organization. We see that.
You're giving us all a gold star right now. That's what you're doing. Okay.
Stretch.
No, it's, yeah.
Oh, I
No, I think that's definitely true, right? Is if you're walking and if mom and dad are fighting and you're walking in that room, it's rough. It's a rough environment to get anything done. So I think that, John, you just hit something that's really important, is maintaining, also for us, maintaining that continuity and clear communication and cohesiveness at the council, so that it feels like a very welcoming environment and not disjointed and disgruntled, and can have open dialogues and disagree and do it respectfully. And I think that that's important.
So that is one thing that I've been pleased with since I've been on council is that I know before I got involved and I'd watch meetings and sometimes they were literal circus and there was counselor against counselor and back and forth and we don't have that anymore. We can disagree and it gets heated sometimes, but it's
You haven't yelled at me once.
That's coming. No, I'm just kidding. I would never do that.
It's tomorrow, Ross. So I would like to bring something up, so, and I don't know where we're at on this. I really feel it's important that we need to install a new police chief. And I think that needs to happen sooner rather than later. I don't know if this is the appropriate place to talk about it, but I think it is, and that's where I'm gonna go with that. I don't think, I know who my choice is. He's already in position right now. I think he's doing a fantastic job. And I think he wants the position. I think we should do that. So for what that's worth, I think we should start talking about that, because I don't think having somebody in a position that's indefinite is doing anybody any good.
I love the fact that you just were like, just threw that out there. Thank you for doing that. It's awesome.
My therapist now.
Yeah. Here's my concern is that I feel like structurally and foundationally, we have flaws. We have opportunities that we need to improve on in a very expedited manner in regards to, we've had systematic failures in my opinion on this. And I think that we need to get those corrected and understand more of the dynamics of what's gone on. We haven't really debriefed since we've had the situation. We haven't had lessons learned. We haven't met with our attorneys again. We haven't talked about the governing rules. And we have something that's working right now. And so I personally am not in a rush to get anything done. We have something going on, but I feel like we have systemic failures that have occurred here, and we haven't even done a root cause to figure out what happened and how we're going to prevent it in the future, and even address additional things that our lawyers have brought up. That's what makes me nervous. I don't necessarily think everything's functioning. So I don't think that, I'm not comfortable with just jumping into something without fixing some of the issues that we currently have.
Those are issues probably been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And we're even hiring from within, but I'm sort of with you, get that past us. I know there's a lot of past there, but if we could look at those legal things and everything you're trying to address here, let's can bring them up and get to it.
That's what I think. So that's the governing policy. Correct me if I'm wrong. The governing rules got taken off the agenda tomorrow so that we can segregate that conversation and have a more in-depth to talk about our governing rules, which is going through our evaluations, our everything that has to do with that, the tools that we just talked about, hiring, what needs to be in place, what that looks like. I mean, we're not in a time is of the essence situation right now. So I'm not a reactionary person where I feel like we have the interim chief, Joe, is doing a phenomenal job. He's been here at council. Like, I think that that's kind of a unanimous thing, right? He's not leaving anywhere. So why do we need to reactionary to jump into anything? I think that we need to take a step back, reflect on what just happened, figure out what happened and how we're going to fix it going forward. Otherwise, I just feel like we're just moving forward without taking corrective actions on what already happened.
I
Does
don't
that make
think
sense?
we need to do it tomorrow. Well, that's what
We
I
need to
just
have-
say.
yeah.
It's a conversation we
Yeah.
need to have, and I'd rather have it sooner than later,
I agree with you. And I think that,
however that looks.
yeah, and I totally agree with you. And I think it needs to be for several reasons, in my opinion, which is one, because we have somebody sitting in an interim position that is, that we're just talking about level of uncertainty, right? And that's really hard to, continue to move and implement change and all those things. And then there's the other side of it is that we just had a pretty significant situation that we need to reflect on and learn those lessons and fix them. So I love the fact of having that dialogue, and I think it needs to be, my opinion is that it should be a focused meeting on what we're doing with the governing policy, get our lawyers in here, what happened, what the suggestions are, how do we prevent this? What do those employee evaluations look like? What do we get training so that people know how to do evaluations? Having that structure in place would make me feel better before bringing on another department head. We don't even have that defined yet on what we exactly are doing in relation to that. So that's just my thought. Thanks on you.
Yeah.
You can have the talking rock.
I say you took up painting.
No, it came from the Heritage Girls. I went and talked to them about the, if I were mayor, and they
Oh.
gave me a rock.
That's nicer than something she would paint.
No, I can see both sides of it. And like I said, this is something we can take our time with. I just want to make sure our interim chief feels the same way, that he's not just out there hanging and not knowing what's going to happen. So I want to make sure he's involved in that conversation, but I do think there are issues we can hopefully improve and make sure certain things don't happen again, but I would like to see it resolved and at least get the discussion going about what does that process look like and where do we go from here? So I think the sooner we can start tackling some of those things, the better.
When are we gonna have that meeting, do you think, John?
Uh,
Do you want the talking rock?
Thursday at 3.
Any idea or any inkling?
fairly soon. I've been coordinating with legal and Ashley and Aiken mostly.
Is this about moving forward, not the past, or is it
Just the governing policy. and,
policy?
Yeah,
So-
some of the recommendations that were in the report as far as employment contracts for your top officials, things of that nature.
That'll come into play.
Um, It's not gonna be too long, so.
Well, I think that that should be up there on the priority list. It should be like up there, like a one. Priority list. We all agree with that?
Yep.
So we can have the conversations. What I love about this too, it seems like everybody is just willing to have the hard conversations, like let's get it out.
As far as the job description, training, Kathy and I have been meeting with CIS. They're gonna come out and do do a training. We're looking at our forms to make sure they're applicable right now. Ours are lengthy. Ours are
Training for us or for,
CIS.
no, but for council or for?
So there's a CIS, they're also attorneys too. Yeah, HR trainings.
We go to that
job description.
I didn't hear that.
No, we go to the CI, are we part of the CIS trainings that are gonna be?
Are you guys
Council.
training?
Yes, I don't see why we wouldn't need to be there, but I'd be happy to be there.
Pretty sure you could be, yeah.
Is this going over just job descriptions? Is that what you're talking
I
about?
think it's.
Yeah.
the
It's
legal
going
aspect
over-
of it.
Job description.
We're not gonna come up with
Performance.
anything there.
Yeah,
Oh, so yeah, I think we should be part of the performance evaluations, because there might be some input we have on things that we would like to see back, especially if we're part of that. And then that a second piece of it is the training, like the actual questionnaire, that form for an evaluation. And then the training so that people can't just assume people know how to do evaluations, right? It's really hard to do plus delta feedback and doing constructive feedback that keeps morale up and gives people to work towards, and then also give accolades. And we do your evaluation, like.
Yeah.
You're going for gold.
Pass fail.
You're going for gold stars, right? Okay,
it's important to do it. I mean, a meaningful one.
yeah, no, they need to be meaningful, otherwise they're ineffective, and they're also, they definitely can help with morale with employees when they see that they're, the hard work that they've done is being acknowledged by their supervisors, right? What they've done over the last year, and if we're doing them on an annual basis, we haven't determined that in the governing rules. So I'm excited to look at that, because I feel like that is a huge elephant in the room that we need to address. And I think I can't speak to everybody, for everybody. I feel like we'll all feel better to move forward. Getting that done. What about, can we also get at some point, like, as a council updates? Like, and then maybe in the next month or something, meet with our lawyers and get all our legal updates.
Yeah, we've talked about that and I had them queued up to do it.
Okay, perfect. So maybe in the next 30, 45 days or something like that, we can all get together. We're hearing all the same information at the same time.
Or it could just be in an executive session.
But that we can have that as a cue, like we like that, I assume. Everybody get on the same page.
Love lawyers,
Huh?
love lawyers. Any legal update I can get,
What did we miss, John, that should be up here that we don't have up there? You don't have anything left really on your list anymore on that one. That's strategic work plan that dwindled down as we've been
We
talking.
we
Like,
moved some of the long-term items up, so quite a few there, so.
anything that we failed to bring up?
Or anything you want from us.
Yeah.
We have a pretty good mix of the qualitative and quantitative things, things you can measure and things you feel, and as I go through it there, I might reserve my, go back to.
What about Kathy, that email that you sent like on the 7th or something about the staff report for meetings? That was that conversation, remember, like we were talking about, we changed the time. Is that working better for you, 3 p.m., way less stress? Perfect. So as far as the time and the meetings, I think you had that, you sent out that email that you talked to staff.
Yeah,
Have an overview of
I
that.
think you have, is that what this is for?
Yeah. So we're keeping the time, but we're based on the staff report that came back to you when you asked them, or John asked them, was that there was either removing some of the report. Do you have that email? It's like, I think it was on the 7th, that you
I
have.
think you mentioned staff could provide the report, but not necessarily present the whole thing in the meeting, that
Yeah.
they come to answer questions after we've had a chance to review it, but
Is there anything that, because I think we should revisit that. Is there anything we can do to help alleviate some of the work for the staff, like to be more efficient, that they're not doing all the reports, or that we can cut down on the council times?
Is it working?
Yeah, is it working? Can it work better? So we have, I think what I recall, I feel like I'm tripping over my words here. I feel like I recall reading that the overall consensus was they like to have the work session and the council at the regular session the same day. They didn't want to alternate, right? So one week and then the regular session the next. Is that right?
That they wanted that?
It's on the 30th.
I think it was that we do the work session, council session, like we were
Yeah.
doing just without the cap.
So January 28th, okay.
It's up on.
Concerns, yeah, there we go. Hold it up at the same time. Bye. Okay, so if we only met, you want to take us through this?
So if we only met once a month, the concern is that, the agendas will get significantly longer, which means later nights, and, we weren't in favor of that, obviously. Having longer meetings was not favorable to most. And the creation of having to create a bunch of special sessions throughout the years is, not, it is when we need time sensitive things, but it also can create a lot more work for us. The public hearing schedule planning has 120-day rule, so that could be, we could run into problems with that. And then if you change from one work session and one regular session per month, there might be some scheduling conflicts when it comes to like not having the July meeting in first week and not having the August one. We still want to keep the omitting the July and August, those first meetings. I think bottom line is none of us have a problem keeping the schedules the way that they are. Not starting them any later. It's not, I think, in terms of lessening work for staff, I think it's either way, it's going to be equal, because if we have to do special sessions often, because that requires actually a lot of work, because you have to send the notice out, you have to organize a time, you have to hold the council. So it's just easier. We are used to the schedule the way it is now. In terms of people getting their schedule in sync with the council schedule, You know, they know what those dates are now.
That makes sense. Is there anything that can be done so it's more efficient? Some of the presentations seem like they're kind of repetitive.
I think
Uh,
that's the last bullet.
Yeah.
Say that's just right where it says instead, that's the one I was referring to.
Okay, got ya.
Kind of like on the same lines of, as what I do for you. I do my report, it's with your council packet. And I'm there and available for questions. I'll do a summary if I've, there's something that I want to highlight. But other than that, I'm in and out 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think that there's, a lot of the departments that are willing and could do something like that.
Would this be more or less work for staff?
Less. And it would reduce your time at the meetings.
So why wouldn't we consider this? And then if there's something that council, like, this is obviously for consideration, but there's something that was coming up that's a hot topic, then we can invite whomever in for, more of a participation in the council meeting, or if we had more questions, or even if we got something, in our packet that month, and then we had questions that came up during that could not be resolved ahead of time by email, then we can invite them in for that.
I like the idea of having them there. But again, they're there to answer questions, maybe 5 or 10 minutes rather than having to be there for a half hour running through a PowerPoint.
Yes.
Generally, when people are presenting a PowerPoint, they're reading everything that you see on the
Give
screen.
me the slides.
Yeah.
And yeah, we could read that ahead of time, so they don't have to spend all that time and effort putting a PowerPoint together. Just put together a few bullet points. This is what we've been working on, and this is what we need from you. I think it would hopefully be helpful to the staff, not have to.
We got a chance to question and answer period.
Is there a consistent, like, simplified format that we could ask from the department head? So everything is kind of just consistent when it comes across to us. So it's like the, bullet points that council wants to see. So they're not also, I mean, I see some of these reports and it's like, they are super extensive. Are they absolutely necessary? Are they giving us more information than we actually need if they're going to be doing it on a monthly basis?
Well, and you may want to just focus on the goals, like projects and where are you at on those, and because some of the things like, I spent 30 minutes looking for a grant. Things like that, that's, it's important on a day-to-day basis that your supervisor knows what you're doing, but what we want reported to the council is something different. So what I would say is, yeah, if the council could come up with what they want to see, then we can do a template and send it out, and that's what people can use, departments.
I'm with Brandon. I want bullet points and I can ask questions.
Yeah.
I don't need a whole lot of information. I trust you guys.
I just think it takes a lot of work to make a nice, and most of them that we do get are nice PowerPoint presentations. You can tell they put a lot of time into it. And I know there's lots of other things they could be doing, so if this takes something off their plate. Parks and Trails Commission is having a similar, because they used to have a thing where each of them was they divvied up parks between the commissioners. And then once every meeting or every other meeting, they come and give a report on their park. And the same thing, they're just very repetitive. And it takes a lot of time and effort on them to go and prepare these things. And some of them have 20 slides, others have 2. So it was just being consistent. And so they're having a similar discussion about whether it's all that's really needed.
It's nice too. I mean, I have like strange things that come in my head, but like SDSs, right? They're like the same, like you get the same topics to come across. They're easy to read. You're looking at things. I knew you would shake your head over there, but if we could help develop that as part of an action item here as a council, we can give them better direction and take a lot of the burden off of them as well. And then the next thing is that when would we want them there, right? Because I know I had a conversation with Suzanne at the last meeting, because if they're not participating, I'm like huge on work-life balance. Life is hard. We work so much. And it's like, if they're not going to be here to
be part of a presentation or we're gonna ask questions, why are we taking them away from their families? That's if it's nothing gonna be to do with them, right? So that's another question that we should have for this, or a discussion point is when we're getting these reports, do we have every, do we make it so they're staggered so that we have them there at the reports, or, when we're reviewing the monthly reports, what does that look like? I think all these things help with morale as well.
How often are we talking about?
Well, I think that if that's up for our discussion, if we're talking about on a monthly basis or every other month, or
You know, Kathy, what the schedule's like now for our reports on
Yeah,
public
we-
work comes how many times and
we do.
engineering?
We do, department reports are semi-annual.
It used to be that counts that department heads to come to every meeting.
Okay, to answer questions, because sometimes there's something that is mentioned and you want to know right away who you want to know right away which department head would know the answer, and they're sitting here, so they would be more readily available to answer a question.
Make it shorter and make it quarterly, and then the questions won't be that long and the answers will be shorter and they can go. We've got a position to fill and they're managing that position, and I think they need to come, whether it's into their evening or something. I mean, these guys all do it. Good job.
yeah, I'd love to see more regular, like simplified updates. Or if, that's a lot of information to digest. Reports, especially when you have many of them. I mean, that last council session we had, man, I don't get tired easy, but I was like struggling at the end. Going through your guys' names, it was getting tiring. So maybe we have that as a council discussion is how often do we want to see reports, create a template that is simplified for the information we actually want to see, most likely pertaining to our goals, and then a decision on, having them there when we're discussing it. That's when the general questions are gonna come up, right?
I've almost wondered too, if this should extend even beyond staff. So I think tomorrow we have Paul Vogel coming and presenting. We have the Chamber of Commerce presenting, but again, it's the same thing. We get the information in the packet. We've already got it. We've already read it and digested it. Then they come at the meeting and kind of regurgitate the same stuff. And
So you don't want to listen to Paul for 2 hours?
I would like him to come, and I like seeing them, and I like them having a presence here and being able to interact with us. But again, is it necessary to have them? Again, we've had 50 new members sign up last month, and we've had that stuff that we could read and that we could.
Are we doing that for the public? Or are we doing that, they get the public gets all the information too? So are we doing that for just to regurgitate for a presentation for the public, or is it for us? Because I personally, I'm a reader, if we can't tell that already. So I read more than I hear, I retain things better. So half the time I'm hearing, but I've already read all this stuff by page. So
I'll look at the list and I'll make my decision. I got a bullet point about something I want to ask him. So I've already go through the list. It cues me up to what I'm curious about, and we'll ask Paul or whoever.
So the second question is will that detract from the morale of the department heads? Where do they like to give these presentations? Will we be making them feel less valued by not sitting out here and giving a presentation, or the rest of them? Is that something that's important to them to demonstrate?
And again, I think they should still be here, whether it's to interact and ask questions.
When I set these up, I can always say, we would like you to be present if there's any questions that need to be asked, but kind of reiterate to them that we don't need you to read through your slides and we don't need you to read through your report. If they get that in the packet.
And I appreciate the fact that they do it, and I can hear you too, that maybe it's for the community too, but I think, is that our purpose, that we're go through to the community where they're each their own organizations, they have newsletters to the community, they have social media, so they're getting their message out there to the community in other ways.
I don't think
It's
so.
available online on our packet.
Yes, exactly. I'm for efficiency. That's what I'm at. Like, and the more time we spend on calories that could be spending on developing other things or whatever the case is, that's where I have a challenge with it. It's a lot of time and effort that people put for it. Is it lean practices? Are we as efficient as possible? Or can we use the time that we're sitting, we're doing this, where we could be doing other things, research or whatever the case is? And can we alleviate a lot of the unnecessary information that is coming from staff?
Still need a list to put the fancy PowerPoint together. So if you got the list, you need some PowerPoint.
Well,
Mhm.
so I think that's a really topic.
I don't know if people feel not appreciated, and again, I still think they should be here to. And they can let us know whatever they want us to know and spend as much time with us as they'd like, but I don't want them to. Like I say, I put together PowerPoints for all of my classes, and it's,
That's
to make a
what-
nice PowerPoint, it
Yeah, it
takes
takes
a lot of
time.
time, it takes effort, and if that wasn't necessary, then.
We do something like we get the information, but also because we want them here for question, could we have them come up and give us like the top 3 important things from the last time they presented, like their 3 highlights that are like, they want us to know, they want to tell us about that, and that would give them a chance to highlight the most important things that are going on with them, but also we're not having to read through with them each one of the slides.
That's a great
idea.
idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so like top 3. Okay, maybe we can consider that too.
So is the 3 o'clock meeting, 3 o'clock work session to council to regular session twice a month? Does that work for everybody?
You mean the way we have it right now?
Yes,
But now it's 3. Yeah.
yes, okay.
Yeah, the wild card with that is the time management piece where we try to set time estimates to stick to. And if you get, like last time, we had a half an hour of public comment. Work session, you don't,
And it gets squished so close to the regular session, so it is.
That was so hard too with the executive session, because I think I probably share views that I don't think we had enough time. Like, I feel like we should have possibly had more time with that. It just felt like, it felt really so rushed, and the whole thing was kind of,
So in most cases, it might be adequate, but for something as big as what we were talking about.
Yeah.
That, I felt it was maybe a little rushed.
so I like this direction. You pouting or?
No, I'm
Okay.
just.
Getting past his nap time.
Do you have anything on that? You like that? Not doing the presentations, having them here, we'll create what we want to actually know, have them present us the top 3 things that they like, or that's a highlight for them, and then we can ask them any additional
Yeah,
questions.
we need a face to face. That's always the best. And then something comes up as they're talking, then you can ask another question on top of that or get into it more, what the real problem is. And then by the same token, they can respond to us like, we're trying to do this and we don't really have enough something and resources or whatever. And then we can discuss that, get it sort of done.
So could we say, I like your point too, so could we say your top 3 highlights, and then like your, top whatever 2 challenges or top 3 challenges that you're up against right now, or whatever the case is too, because that would foster that conversation.
And their successes of projects they've completed, and it's there.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be a presentation. It can just be.
That's between questions and presentation, you're looking at least 15 to 20 minutes. Which is what I allot already.
I think those presentations are a lot longer.
Some of them do go longer when
So by the
there's
time-
questions back and forth and back and forth.
If they go through the PowerPoint, and that takes 5-10 minutes.
And I think that that's the point. We've already read the entire PowerPoint by the time that we got here, so. It's not for us, because we've already read it.
So we're talking about time allotted in meetings, but we're not talking about their time either in preparing all of
Well, I
that.
tell everybody you have 15 minutes. That includes questions and answers from the council. And when they get here and you're asking all the questions, they don't stick to their time frame.
Yeah, and I think that's the hard part, is because that by the time that whole PowerPoint, and I think that comes back to Russ's comment, when we're reading the information, he's already taken notes on the bullet points he wants to ask questions. So I feel like when the information, like the forester was a prime example, right? I had a lot of questions for him. The thing is that should be our time to ask the questions. That's what we're here for, right? So it's not going through a full-blown presentation. We should have already read our packets, as you said, like 2,500 times so far. Read your packets. So we should be able to generate those questions for the most part, unless another council member asks something that sparks something. It should be a time for us to read the information they provide us and ask the questions for them.
Yeah.
Probably what the thing is any speaker, whether it's a department head or an outside speaker, you give them the parameters. They submit their presentation ahead of time, you've had the chance to view it, and their instruction is just quick summary and be available for questions.
Or top three, and then you're there for questions.
Yeah,
I like
don't
that.
go through the PowerPoint.
Yes, I like
And
that.
that's the rule.
Yes, I really like that. I think we should consider that as a council or something to streamline
For
the.
me, I usually don't have a whole lot of questions. And like you said, usually I get my questions come from somebody else asking a question like, what about this? Usually the information is pretty self-explanatory. Like I know, we're gonna get the packet, whatever, hour looking look. It's good enough.
Okay, that's progress. What about, did we hammer out on the liaison piece? Like, I feel like that, are we gonna go through that with the governing policy too? Cause I feel like we left that so discombobulated.
Yeah, that's both in the
Okay,
governing rule and the policy.
like how that,
I will mention, we said we wanted to kind of get some feedback from the boards and commissions too. So at our last Parks and Trails Commission meeting, I brought it up at the end. And their thought was we do like having somebody from council here. And having somebody we can ask questions or know that we can ask them to find an answer for us and they'll do it. They said it doesn't necessarily matter who it is. They said, we like you, we like having you here, but it would be nice to get to know the other council members as well. So they were open to the idea of some kind of rotation or something different than we're doing now. So they weren't against it.
I like that idea. It just gives us more information for each department or each commission.
I think it diversifies us too, right? For the citizens, they didn't elect us for one department, they elect us or commission, they want us to know as much as they want us to know as much as we possibly can about the goings-ons of the city. So,
I found it, it's the first time back on the planning commission, since I was involved so many years. It was great to be part of the discussion and get some history, what I remember is coming up again or whatever, and that sort of thing. So I felt, although sort of against it for a while to sort of streamline things, I think it's important because we did talk with the planning commission one-on-one, and I think it was really helpful for them and us.
the other thing is we all bring a different like perspective and skill set, right? So then I think that also plays into it. And I think any one of them, the commissions or the board should feel comfortable to contact any of us at any time, right? That's also important. Also, I think in the future with the celebrations of things, like we as a council should try to participate as much as possible together where we can to show support for those boards and councils if there's something coming up as well. I mean, it takes a little more work on Kathy's behalf because of the potential quorum, but I think that shows that unity too for the council when John was talking about the leadership from the top down and setting that tone. Can't all with our schedules, but that's where. Lisa, you got anything? You're back there all quiet.
I'm just typing it up.
Do you have anything, any more wisdom back there? Anything else that, I also think maybe, even though this has been a long time, I don't think we need to spend this much time in the future. I think these work sessions, in my opinion, could be valuable. Like if we did them once a quarter, just set the time to do what we just did, talk about whatever comes up that we want to talk about, how things are going, what we need to improve on. Staff input at what's going right with them.
Say a lot of the things we've talked about today are things that I've been thinking about, or that there's just never been a good time to say work sessions or the presentations, and there's always other stuff that occupies your time. So I thought this was helpful.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's a way for us to throw things out there for we want to talk about, and it's not constrained to the schedule.
Yeah, or an agenda, really. I mean, we have a kind of an agenda, but at least we can,
In retreat.
yeah, it's what it is, but it's us facilitating it.
You see the retreat, we got food. Just saying.
He's really upset about the food.
Times in a half an hour, so you
Yeah.
guys,
Or your burrito, man.
I know, no, I'm not doing the burritos
Got
anymore.
a tight, they have a tight budget.
True, Gloria's sitting in here me mugging us. Do we have anything else, John, that? Any last comments?
This is, feels really good for relationship building and connecting and let's sing around this. We do the strategic plan and we're job to set the policy and the admins to make it happen, so. Add things to the list, take things that are done. Need to be done or are already done. It's all good stuff.
I think that we need to be mindful of like trying to be lean as possible and efficient to help with a lot of that burden on the staff. Like that should be a consideration that we have when we go forward. If we're trying to put something on, do we take something off? And can we minimize the amount of effort that has to go forward? Especially if we're gonna put some new stuff on there, right?
And I'd also like to hear from the department heads or whoever, like what's working and what's not working. Like if they don't want it, if they want to do a PowerPoint and they want to bring it in. And that's important to them, then let's keep doing it.
I would really like to meet that department head.
Well, I'm just saying, there's some that are,
You know, we used to do just small, like little action sheets on stuff, but, Matt started doing, Matt Brown used to do finance reports that were very PowerPoint lengthy and everything. And then when, Mohammed came, he just like knocked it out of the park with his PowerPoints. And then everybody's kind of like, feels like they need to do that too.
Yeah, there is a thing though, death by PowerPoints. It is a real thing. So that piece is.
I never understood them.
More of a sales job. I always looked at it that way. It's like, don't tell me.
And I'm hopeful that the staff in general really start feeling like we are trying to pull in the same direction and you know, taking their time and efforts into consideration for all the things that we would like to do. So what about you, Counselor Hubbard? Do you have anything? We have 5 minutes left. Do you have anything that?
Just like to go back to that decorum part.
Okay.
Maybe you could set the tone for that. Our last session, and then you're also the salute to the flag. To hear Kathy talk about her dad, oh, just heartfelt. And then getting up in a strong voice and it's like, God, this is what it's really all about. All that's why we're here. And then for Brady to come and just dump on everybody, what a downer. I mean, can't we just keep this going? And his decorum is just like, that's what he wants to do, is depress everybody. But it sure, felt good when all that was community and an employee of the city for so long. And then, I don't know, it just, I'm sure we can't stop it, but it's like not a good look for us or anything.
Maybe we combat it by all the positivity that we're trying to do in the way that we represent ourselves going forward. I don't know. That's a tough one. I have so many things I would like to say, but I'm not going to because I have decorum currently. So
And
You
honestly,
have,
when,
well, it should be a two-way street, decorum, okay? Let's
No.
just try and press
I
that.
think I think we can do a better job. And I will try to do a better job on trying to create that. I don't know exactly what that looks like at this point, but we'll figure it out.
your hometown hero with Marty Sure, it's the first time in 18 years I've seen the dude without a hat.
Yeah. It was a big deal to him.
Liked it.
I love that. And the American Legion and others, in fact, Marty is helping recruit other people to
do it?
yeah, and I love that. I love starting off the meeting like that. So decorum is up there on the priority list.
I can pull our listserv, the Oregon Association of Municipal Recorders listserv. We don't need to reinvent the wheel if other people have had to deal with the same thing. So let me find out if other people have sort of, a script that they use or what they do to interrupt somebody who's being disrespectful.
Dart guns.
Just
Hmm?
Dart guns.
I just think it's true though, and like even tomorrow, how you have to. The Employee of the Year award and you have to pick where you're gonna put things because you don't want the mood to get. ruined. Just like when I was doing the fallen officer presentation and have their family coming and you want it to be a nice thing, and then somebody gets up afterwards and. Says something nasty. It just kind of ruins the whole.
Why don't we put at the end of the? Just didn't like that.
I mean, that's a option to move public comment at the end, like that could be a possibility too, so we get through the whole night and then that, I mean, that is.
It kind of sets the tone of the meeting. when-
That's a I mean, we could do that. We can do it at the end and then everybody still could participate, but the whole mood, I think that
Makes-
kind of is brilliant, really.
Takes care of it and it just,
Yeah.
it lets them say their piece or whatever. And
I'm fine with that too.
I think it would be great.
One of the reasons I wanted to run was because I met so many people that wanted to be involved with, civic engagement. They wanted to be on committees and stuff, and there is a known like negativity that is preventing people to do that. So the more that we can create a positive environment, I think we're seeing new people come out and wanting to be on the committees that have never been before, and I think we need to continue to foster that. I think we should talk about putting in public comment at the end.
And I hadn't thought about it like that. Like I said, it was nice.
The only thing that I can say to that is that if somebody's coming to talk about something on the work session agenda, you would want to hear that prior to that discussion than at the end. Now, what other cities do is they still have them at the visitor comments at the end, but they do a card at the back of the room that says, I would like to speak on this, then they hand it to me and I let the mayor know.
Would work.
Definitely have this further conversation at council, because this would be part of our operating rules, correct, that we would need to modify?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should, and I think that, I mean, that email, right, of how we even celebrate that piece, that just kind of made me sad, like, that we shouldn't have that, we should be able to celebrate, accomplishments and not basically just have negativity.
Sense to me.
We can have an hour-long, nice, productive meeting and then. A few minutes of nasty at the end. That would be a lot better than.
Make me feel better.
Yeah.
And then Russ could just get up and leave.
And
Anything else? Last call for anything. Gloria, you have anything? Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been helpful, really helpful. And Kathy, thank you for taking this on. Anything else? We are at 6 o'clock on the dot.
Thank you.
All right. This